Good evening and welcome everyone to the December 18th, 2017 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we get going, if we could all rise for invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Almighty God, we come before you, acknowledging your sovereignty over all things. We thank you for your presence tonight. We also thank you for your blessings on our community. Father, as we consider the tasks of governing within our community, we ask that you would guide our thoughts and hearts, and we would ask that you would grant each of us wisdom and discernment as well as understanding. And as always, Lord, we each pray to you in the manner we were taught. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So first and foremost, as I just mentioned, Selectmen Surface will not be with us tonight. So we have four of us on the board tonight. So we'll try to get through everyone in the crowd as soon as we can and get through the agenda. So first and foremost, let's the second annual Flatbread 5K. I think we have a couple of folks here.
Good evening, guys.
How are you?
Great, and you?
Good.
Happy holidays.
Likewise.
And Merry Christmas to you.
If you could both identify yourselves first.
Sure, Ashley Steves.
Okay. Hi,
Karen.
Ashley.
Sorry, Karen Napolitano.
Hi, Karen.
Hey.
Okay. So thank you for coming tonight. You're here for the second annual. I guess everything went well last year, right?
Everything went well, yeah. So
Right.
we're back for an even hopefully bigger turnout this upcoming May.
Okay.
Yeah, everything went smooth. People loved the event, so it was a home run and brought a lot of new faces to the area. We had people come up from all the way down from Cambridge up to southern New Hampshire and beyond. So it's kind of a unique event, the fact that it's a Friday night, but therefore hence the beer and pizza post run. So yeah, it was a great event. No issues that came back. People loved the course. The community got really into it with the neighborhood that we ran through, like Canterbury Lane. A lot of people were outside kind of cheering people on. So it was a really fun night.
Nice, nice. Actually, how many people did you get last year?
Last year we got about 150, a little less.
Awesome.
So this year, definitely goal is to be closer to the 200 mark.
Uh-huh.
It worked out well because it was the night that the club was having a prom, so there were no vehicles in the lot, which is the reason why we chose the date we did this year for the same kind of basically layout this year.
Okay. So you had prom that night at
Yeah, it was
Evolution?
junior prom.
Wow, so you had a picture of prom with some beer
It was
and
pretty
pizza.
fun.
Awesome. That's what we need.
Yeah, so
Great.
it worked out well with people, like there being no cars in there, obviously, because it can be obviously a busy place most other evenings. So
Okay. Chief, you on board for something like that? I mean, do we want
The pizza or
do we want to try to avoid that this year?
no, the second annual's fine.
No, I mean having. Do you know when that prom is?
I don't.
I'd rather not have a prom, on the same night as this event. To ask me.
I mean, we would have to ask the school in Black Swan what their schedule is.
Yeah.
Was it our,
I mean, it's the kids' night, so I would rather the kids kind of keep
it
their.
was
own.
our school? You know?
I
Well, that's the thing is I know
They
other
could
schools
host
have-
other
yeah.
Oh, other schools.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know other schools utilize.
yeah, I
that.
actually think it was a private school, possibly.
Oh, it was. So it was in Georgetown.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
We can find out, but we can definitely find
Okay.
out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, just some not a huge deal,
It went
but
off without a hitch last year, so
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure
Alright.
the Black Swan will schedule according to.
okay. All right. Fantastic. So were there any challenges last year that we have to talk about?
No, usually once the police are great to work with. We hired a couple of details to help with just traffic, and really the only stretch they're on 97 was between Flatbread and where they turned with the first right off 97. So everything else was really well handled, and we got nothing but good feedback. So
All right, great. Ashley, if we could go back a little bit for folks that don't know much
Sure.
about the event, if you could tell us a little bit more about the event.
yeah,
and what you're doing.
sure. So we had this idea of basically doing an evening event last year, just because there's so many events happening Saturday morning, Sunday mornings that we were looking for something earlier in the season to kick off. And we had known the manager in Salem, and there's a lot of races that happen there. So he had suggested their Georgetown location to get just more people educated about the location, it being there. And the venue was something that made sense to us, was big enough. And the course that we managed to prepare with Lieutenant Hatch was really great, and kind of a mix of flat and a little bit of a challenge coming up Canterbury. So it was a healthy mix, and we just put our heads together with the whole pizza and beer, and it was people like that after runs anyways, and we just thought it was a cool idea. And then we partnered with the Erie 4 Fire Association for a benefit to basically make a donation too.
Oh, great.
So they actually came and like sold shirts and we did a kids event in the beginning, so the kids got to use, like, explore the fire truck and things like that. So it was a really nice relationship had kind of started at that event.
Great. Sounds awesome. All right.
Well,
Gord?
I have a question.
Yep.
Just in the letter, this more of an administrative thing. The
Sure.
race is May 8th of 18. When I'm looking at the certificate of liability,
Oh,
it says the policy expires.
yeah. So I believe it expires in March. So we'll be getting like our new updated policy and then send the revised to Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes up in March every year. So it's the start of our event season typically. So.
Okay. So I would recommend for any motion given tonight that we include that we have that insurance updated, okay? Any other questions from the board? Jeremy?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. All right. You have a motion? Anybody want to make one?
Mr. Chair, I would move that the Board of Selectmen approve the second annual Flatbread Fiery 5K to be held on Friday evening, May 18th, 2018, along with an updated certificate of liability insurance policy prior to that date.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on the board? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if while we were up here, you had on our agenda another race in April.
I-5.
Yeah, the Lori Hodges.
Lori
Did you
Hodges,
want to do that now or
Oh, you're,
same person?
oh,
I don't know if that makes
I'm sorry.
easier for
Oh,
me.
I
It's
didn't
okay.
see that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wouldn't want to.
Absolutely.
It's okay, yeah. So this is a brand new event. We actually met this gentleman, Ben Hodges, from this event. His wife, longtime Georgetown resident, grew up here. I don't know if you're familiar, passed away from her battle with cancer 2 years ago, basically this month. So we couldn't be here tonight, just of obvious reasons. So he had basically approached us about putting together a 5K fundraising event for her charity, or her fund in her name, excuse me, and wanted to do it in April from the Pearly School, basically following the same route as the Donahoe race. Just an evening, like a late afternoon, like a 5 o'clock start, kind of after people are done with their kind of crazy Saturdays with soccer and things like that. So that's a new event that it's what we do basically for people reach out to us to help them facilitate events like this as well. So we're here on behalf of Mr. Hodges and his family to present that new event to Georgetown.
Great. And I know Ben very well. I'm excited, for this event. I think it's, it is a great event to honor a nice woman, a great woman here in Georgetown that everyone loves. So looking forward to it. So
Great.
any questions, on the board?
Same thing with the insurance.
Sure. Yep.
Anyone else? Chief, have you seen the route? Just to verify the route? Yeah, I know it's the same route
It's going to be the
as,
same as the Donahoe race, and we'll have
You
to
go with
do
that?
some coordination with that, because that race requires some staff, because of some of these side streets from Pearly School down and back.
Yeah.
We've done it for many years, so we have a plan in place, but there would be some pre-planning for that.
okay.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Kevin Defield handles that road race, so he's very well versed in it, so we'll get you a meeting with him and make sure that the logistics are such.
Perfect.
Because you don't know your numbers, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll work on it.
Yeah, I anticipate that we'll also get, a good amount of, people to
And
participate,
the
so.
date on April is what?
April
7th.
7th.
7,
And what time was that, Ashley?
5 p.m. start.
5 p.m.
And there's no pizza and beer after that.
No.
Okay.
Food, but no alcohol. No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, from the board? No? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the request for the inaugural Laurie Hodges Memorial 5K Run Walk on the evening of April 7th, beginning at 5 p.m. and to start from the Pearly School,
Second?
as well as having an updated insurance certificate.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just
sir.
wanted, it's more on your maps that you have here. This
Yeah.
is kind of, it shows elevations and everything, so this is more for the runners.
Yeah.
So they know what type of challenge that they're getting into, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we should like to show the elevation
Yeah.
just so they know.
Not much on
No
that one, I don't
surprises.
think. but-
Yeah, no.
Okay. That
Pretty
was
flat,
basically
I
it.
think.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All set.
Great. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for
Happy
attending
holidays
tonight.
again.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we can't wait.
Us
Thank
too.
you so much.
Okay. So second, if I could, like to call Jeff Moore. Jeff, why don't you come on up?
Good evening.
How you doing, Jeff?
Good. And Scott McDonald is here with me as well.
Scott, how are you?
Good, how you doing, Joe?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, so we're here to sort of follow up on the West Street discussion that's been ongoing for the last couple of months, I guess, with this board. And as a result of, I think it was the previous meeting, I think your last meeting was canceled, so the meeting that was held earlier in
Yeah,
December.
Jeff, if I could interrupt you 1 second. For all those who might be following the agenda, this was a late addition to the agenda. And therefore, you won't see it on that one, okay? So, okay. Sorry about that, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. So at your previous meeting, you talked about doing a study to look at alternatives for the West Street fields if those fields were to maybe be shut down, and
Sure, correct.
where else in town might there be a place to do it. And during that meeting, I texted Mr. Surface and said that Scott and I had actually submitted a very similar request to the CPC last year, which didn't go anywhere, but that if this board would like us to resubmit something along the lines that you've been discussing, we could get that in, because the deadline was only 2 days following
That meeting.
the closure of that meeting. So you guys briefly discussed it, and I went ahead with that and submitted that idea to the CPC. I think that meeting was on the 27th. They reviewed that request on December 5th and determined it was legitimate use of funds, so they put us on the docket to present. I don't know, Ms. Fowler, if you were there
Yes.
for that meeting? Okay. Put us on the docket actually for tomorrow night to present the actual project. So I had scrambled together with Scott's help, and we put together a little bit more detailed project application form, which, was that in the packets? I don't know if you guys
Well,
got a
it's
copy.
in their electronic packet.
Okay. And this was put together literally this weekend, so that we could stay on the time frame for the CPC review schedule. And I don't know if you had a chance to review it, but basically what we're looking at is, what we will be requesting is essentially to, I can read it or you can review it, but putting together a committee consisting of maybe somebody from this board and or the schools, Parks and Rec, GAA, whomever else may be appropriate, to oversee a study by a qualified engineer to evaluate potential locations suitable for replacing the West Street fields. And I go on to explain some of the discussion that this board has had and the issues with West Street. And down below, I won't read the whole thing, but down below we talk about some of the tasks that we'd like to see resulting from this study. And one would be to provide an assessment of the athletic activities in town. Really, what do we have in town? What teams? How many kids playing? And then look at what assets do we have in town from an athletic field perspective, and what's the inventory and the capacity in town to support the current and future athletic activities. And then look at the assessment or the impact to shutting down West Street. Further, we'd want to identify areas in town that would be potentially suitable for replacing that athletic complex, including reviewing any data that may be available with some ongoing studies. I think Mr. Fowler may be familiar if there's other CPC studies. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them or not, but according to the CPC chair, Harry Locatilia, he told me that there may be some other studies that have looked at land use for other purposes, so we could utilize any of that data if it's available. Further, we'd want to evaluate any of those potential areas and evaluate the merits and drawbacks of any for potentially replacing West Street if need be, and come up with a schematic design or preliminary cost and schedule required to develop any of those sites.
Okay.
So that's kind of in a nutshell. It's very brief. We sort of did this. Scott and I looked at doing something similar last year. It was more focusing on the high school field and what it would take to maybe do a study to renovate. There's a study that was done in 2006, if I could back up for just a minute, and I don't know if you were able to pass that on electronically to them as well. You were. By Gale Associates. I was involved in what was called the Taking Pride in Georgetown Committee at that time. And they did a master plan for the high school, and it's now 11 or 12 years old. That was funded through the CPC at that time. A lot of this work, some of it, at least for the lower field, has already been done, or at least done in a similar fashion. But a lot of this is still pretty good data, and it gives a lot of good information about what the potential is for the upper fields up there.
Okay.
The study that we would envision may include this site. It may also include other sites, but this is sort of the level of detail that we might want to consider evaluating if you look at other sites in town for that potential. So I've got a copy of it for you. I apologize, we're missing the first couple of sections.
They've all got it electronically.
Okay. It starts at section 3. I think we can, Scott, you were talking with Gail earlier today. I think we can get a full copy of
We can
this.
get the balance
color.
of that.
We'll get a fresh copy. It's hard to read. It's quite old. It's the only one that I had available.
Jeff, since we this was kind of late before we got this, can you give us, say, kind of an overview, of the Gale report?
Yeah. So what they did is they looked at, this is called, it's entitled the Town of Georgetown Middle High School Turf Feasibility Study and Master Plan. At the time that this study was done, there were, and fill in any holes, Scott, if you can recall, this is getting to be quite a while ago. At the time, this high school had a lot of real problems with their athletic fields in the complex over there. This was before any of the renovation was done in the lower field, before a lot of the renovations were actually done in the high school itself, actually. The lower field, just after this study came out, the lower field actually had to be shut down for 1 or 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
Due to
couldn't
flooding.
use it for football games, for soccer games, lacrosse games. Everything had to be played off site.
Yeah, or up top.
Yeah,
Football
or up
had to
top,
go up,
right.
yeah, and everything else had to go up top. There was a severe lack of playing fields even at that time. And even then, we discussed West Street as being, on the decline, even 10 years ago. There was a committee, it was actually headed by a gal by the name of Heather Hartford, who at the time was the varsity lacrosse coach, and she said, I think there's a lot of potential for the high school. This study looked at a potential upgrade to the entire high school facilities. What is the potential for the land that exists up there? And it included renovating the lower field and looking at the land at the upper field. This study includes tennis courts, it includes a track, it includes a stadium, the upper side includes lighting. There's a cost estimate in there which you don't want to look at too closely because it's it includes, you know, a lot of stuff.
Sure, sure.
But what's really relevant in here is a schematic of the upper level and how that land could possibly be reutilized for athletic use. It's already being used for athletic facilities now. They also did some borings they did some very preliminary engineering work. They did some borings, and the results of those are in here to determine whether or not there was any rock and so forth, or ledge in those mounds that are up there.
Okay.
Determined that it was workable. So what they did is they did a preliminary project estimate. They did a preliminary design. They did a summary of the permitting that would be required, and they did a very preliminary project schedule. And most importantly, a cost analysis, a breakdown of what it would take to do that. Scott and I last year thought it would be a good idea to have this study updated, because there was a lot of problems that we see with the high school fields that really needed to be addressed at some point anyway, and maybe now is the time to plan ahead.
And the improvements that have been made at the lower field. So, you know, there's a significant amount of changes that need to take place in that study as a result of some of the great work that's been done in the lower fields, for example. But I think it's important to note that there's just a lot of space in the upper fields that is not utilized at all,
No,
covered in
I
trees.
agreed.
I mean, the town owns a lot more land than I think people realize up there. And so we're not maximizing the utilization at
Not
all.
even close.
But, you know, so that's one potential site. We fully understood what Selectmen Services' desire was to look at the various options in town. And we see the high school being one of them for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Does this address also, I mean, for all of us that have been there, not that easy to get up there, right?
That would be a big part of it. Access,
So
safe
does this-
access,
does this-
access for emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
That's
Is
all
this part of this?
Yes.
Okay.
They included a new access road going up behind the school, a potential emergency access going out the back onto one of the streets potentially,
Okay.
as well as they had basketball courts or tennis courts, I think, going up the side of the hill with a cut and fill. They were showing several tennis courts in there, which could also be used, you know, for additional parking. If
Kind of a terraced approach. So left of the school, kind of a terraced approach to get up there and
Okay.
utilize
Actually, a
some
lot
of
of
that
property
space.
going up that hill.
A lot of land.
Yeah.
Parking.
Okay.
So yeah, that was all addressed. And again, you know, there could be other locations, other more cost-effective locations in town to replace West Street. And I think I'm sort of paraphrasing what I thought this board's desire might be going forward with a study. And so we're certainly here to get any of your input. But the idea being, you know, let's identify any areas in town that might be suitable, and then do sort of a preliminary review to determine what those sites are capable of handling from a development standpoint, and what would it cost?
Right. All right. So we're talking about an approval just to kind of get the study done, right?
Yeah, we're on the docket tomorrow night. We're placed on the schedule for tomorrow with the CPC.
7 o'clock, right?
7:30.
7:30, yeah.
And I believe there are 4 different sessions, and we drew the first meeting tomorrow night. And I put Dave Surface's name on this, actually, because it's coming from the selectmen. But I don't, you know, we sort of did this quickly because we saw the desire to do a study coming out of the discussion that you all have had. And since we kind of have done this once, we didn't want the opportunity to pass this board by
Have to wait another year.
and wait another year to get
Yeah,
in the schedule. So I guess the question is, would somebody from this board want to be involved in this from the get-go to see if we can get a study off the ground with the CPC representing this board, or not? And if so, would you want to join us tomorrow night, I guess, and help present this to the CPC, or you know, you want us to take off and do this on our own? We're sort of using you guys. We're representing, you know, the desire of this board. So
But just as a point,
Sure, yeah.
it did come through with 4 different names on it.
it did.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if David was the one that we ended up, because just to keep things on a smooth flow, because we had 2 things that came in this year with more than one name on it. Typically, there's one name.
Right. And
So for us to answer, you know, we just said, I think we said the first name that was on there, so I don't know if David's name was on there
it was
first or someone
it was
else's.
mine, I think.
Okay, so you're actually.
I'm submitting it with
you're probably
David's name on it.
You may actually be our contact.
And that would be fine. I just didn't want to be representing the Board of Selectmen as something that you guys want to do, and
Yeah.
we're certainly
Would you
here to
need a
help
selectman
get
there?
that done.
Tomorrow night?
It would,
Would
I
be
think it would be
good.
helpful, if anybody can make it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll be there.
yeah,
Yeah, Gary will be there, I won't, I'll be.
What time is that?
7:30, and there's four different projects being presented.
But he had us on tap first, didn't he?
Well, he's got us listed first. I did ask Harry, and since you're on the committee, you might be able to hear us out as well. Scott and I actually have an obligation till about 8 tomorrow night, so I asked him if he could push us a little bit
Well,
later. I don't know
probably not
if that can be accommodated or not.
Does
but
David know about this meeting?
I've emailed him. I haven't heard back from him.
Okay, I can reach out to him. Because, you know, I do know that I spoke with David because I saw a couple of emails, you know, even as early as that night after, you know, our meeting. And, you know, I know David had expressed interest as being that person from this board who would want to be involved. And, you know, I told him I was fine with that. So if, you know, first of all, we need to make sure he knows about it. Okay, number two is, we're gonna see then what his availability is, because I agree that someone, you know, probably should be there, so. And how much, would this study, you know, kinda consist of, you know,
It's around your 22,000?
Yeah,
somewhere in there?
Imagine
want to
it's a quick
discuss
estimate, but
the estimate we had last year, and
so
then
last year's estimate really was primarily focused on updating the 2006 study specific to the high school.
Okay.
This study, you know, at the request of the Board of Selectmen from your previous meeting, is to add other potential locations at least to be looked at and considered as an option to replace West Street. Therefore, that's more time and effort on the part of any engineering firm to do that. So last year's estimate we got was just shy of 14,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we're roughly estimating somewhere in the vicinity of about 23 or so
Okay,
this year, and we're hoping to hone in on that a little bit further tomorrow. I had a discussion late this evening actually with a representative from an engineering firm who gave us the quote last year, and he's going to put something together hopefully tomorrow to get us.
So
Okay.
what was that quote? The quote was only for the high school? Was that where the 24 came in?
No,
that was the
it
14.
was 14.
14,
to
13
update
and change
this.
for the high school only.
Okay.
So now that
Yeah.
we're looking at
Yeah, I think it'd be a
various,
good idea to get a full picture of
oh, no doubt
everything.
about it, I mean, if we're gonna
Yeah.
take this seriously, we
So the
have to.
high school would be the upper fields that you'd be looking at?
Yes.
Not any changes to where the rug is now?
No.
Correct.
No.
just if I could make
Sure.
a kind of a point of order. I mean, we as a board haven't really requested anything yet.
No.
I mean, let's be careful how we present it, and unless we're gonna try to do that tonight, you know. Oh, and I got one big question with this, that I should put it out there right now, and that is, with the strategic plan that's being worked on in the town, should this fit more in with that? I mean, I'm not saying let's not get something in front of there. I mean, CPC, we take all requests if, and, you know, we went over, decided, I think we only kicked one out that we thought wasn't applicable. But there's a lot on there this year also. Yeah, we had a heavy, last year was kinda heavy. This year we've got a lot of requests. But just, you know, we had great discussion on it the last couple of our last meetings, but I mean, and it didn't really come up, and I thought of this after, you know, should this be part of our strategic plan that we're having going forward for the town? Or are we now going out on a sort of our own satellite type of thing, and should we be doing that? So I think we want to at least look at it from that aspect, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first, I'll open that up to the board, you know, you guys have any, you know, remarks on that?
Well, I would be in favor of looking at options, but depending on what the options are and the cost, would determine whether or not I'd be in favor
Well, and
of
that's,
doing
I
it.
think, where we're at. Is
That's the
just-
reason for the
yeah,
study.
It's just the study. I mean, we're not doing anything more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the strategic plan, it's probably gonna come more towards implementation of it. So I don't really see that,
So you think having a
just having a
having a
study,
study will kind of go
I don't,
prepare for the strategic plan?
But I think it will come into play, obviously, yeah. But I don't think that it's anything that we have to be concerned about, I think, right now. At least just as, because it's a study, we just want to get an idea of what our options are. And then, obviously, if those do fit within the strategic plan, I completely agree that,
Okay, yeah.
Well, and the strategic plan is for lack of a better term, it's a living thing right now, right? It's it's far from being completed. There's still a lot of work, that we're doing with it. To try to figure where the strategic plan is going pertaining to this field is very hard to do. So if we were at a point where we had a vote on moving forward with a project, I think we'd be kind of little over our skis a little bit with that. But I think for a study, okay, I think it's applicable here. Because we do have to do something. I mean, West Street, for a lot of reasons that we had discussions about, is just not in the plans moving forward, and it can't be. For a lot of different reasons.
Well, you remember my opinion on that, but okay.
Yep.
And I will say, this is now 11, almost going on 12 years old, the original study. And it was done well before the turf project was at the high school, but this kind of laid a lot of that groundwork going in. Gail actually ended up being the engineer of choice for that project, and a lot of this was utilized for that. And they took a piece of it, and it changed. It wasn't exactly what they did, but they took a piece of that, and they said, okay. And they, that was carved out, and things changed a little bit. But it wasn't. I think this was money well spent at that time, even though it wasn't exactly what they moved forward with. So, again, I would envision this being, here's several options, and then what do you want to do going forward? Maybe those then become part of something else.
Either of you involved with open space at all? The open space committee? Okay, because I think part of what Harry might have meant, I think there's some hefty money, I think possibly up around 50,000, I could be wrong, so please don't quote me, that they have that are looking at space in town and the potentials of it. So that may have been part of what Harry, when Harry answered you and said that, there's other things out there. So you're also, we want to, take that into effect, and will this be something that will be working with that? Because that's what I mean. How many of these different studies do we have? We need to be working together with all of these, with these different studies.
Well, and this sounds pretty comprehensive. I mean, if we can get this study done, I think the town knows exactly what our options are, as opposed to spending $9,000 less and having a study on just one area. That's what I like about it. We're going to be doing a very comprehensive study to kind of review and consider our options, and kind of come up with a plan from there. Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys have the full inventory of all the fields that we need to ask the consultant to look at?
We know the existing inventory in town.
Right.
Okay.
The question would be what areas or lots in town might be suitable for further development. That's something that.
Possible new sites.
Yeah,
That's
that's
an important question.
Yeah, because I know
also,
on
correct?
National
Sure.
Ave, I think, as you guys know, that's owned by the town now, so.
I think there's a lot of, and that's why I said a committee that would, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fowler, when these monies are allocated, I think there has to be a public committee that serves those funds generally.
It typically it falls to just like you could have this under, right now you've got it listed under the Board of Selectmen would be sort of spearheading this. That's how a lot of it works. Like if somebody comes in with something like to do the graveyards, that usually falls, because that's historic, so that falls to a historic committee. We got a society and a committee. The commission is the one for the town, so that falls under that. Yeah, typically they have to fall under some type of a board or committee within town. So that could possibly
That could either be this board, or it could be a
Park and
committee
Rec.
that's formed with representatives that are much more familiar with these other aspects. I mean, if there's somebody from open space on there, they may be very familiar with and can bring that knowledge to this review to kind of speed things along and make sure that we don't miss anything. GAA obviously would want to be involved. The schools may want to be involved. So that was our concept. And again, this is open for your review. I know I apologize for the short notice. It's just kind of the way things
No,
landed.
it's-
We'd love to be
it's-
here early after New Year's and say, yeah, we got a month to put something together, but unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So
No, this is the timing came together this way.
we're
This
just
is,
trying to get,
that's what it is.
move things along, I guess. So.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Further questions, from the board, Gary?
I'll have them tomorrow.
Doug?
Oh, I'm all set.
All right. So Mike, do we need to vote on this, right? Or not?
Yeah, you should to adopt it as your submission.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you just say a little bit earlier that CPC has already approved that to be on their agenda?
Yes.
This presentation, this project
Yes.
presentation's on the
Right,
agenda
okay, all right.
for tomorrow night.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I
Do you
guess
have a
my
motion?
question would be, why would we need to vote on it?
Well, as Gary pointed out, this was just a side discussion that David had with them. The full board was not really involved.
Yeah, in other words, there's really been no request here of the Board of Selectmen, it was what I said earlier, right? That's
Yeah.
what you're trying to,
But a request has been made by
well, anybody
citizens.
in town can put in a request to community preservation. And many times what we would do is we may align them under who this falls under. So
Alright.
this could, I don't wanna speak for that board, but I mean, it's possible that maybe this board isn't the best.
Michael.
I'm sitting here thinking it may well be.
Yeah. So are we just looking to make an official request? Is that what we're trying to do here?
Well, I think the weight of the Board of Selectmen behind this project might do a lot more for the project than Joe Citizen submitting something.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
It might.
Agreed. And I think, the board is, certainly coming together and agreeing on it, I think would go a long way. So, I'm certainly in favor of that. So, so how do we word this then? This isn't an easy kind of.
That the good question.
I can tell you right now, Mr. I'm happy with this moving forward right now, the way it is. And I don't know that I don't know that I wanna go on record as, at this point, of being in favor of any of this.
In favor of just making,
I mean, it's
The-
like the question that Doug asked. I mean, it's on the agenda. We've kept it on the agenda. We figured everything meets. So CPC is already, is already moving this ahead. And I myself, if you ask me to vote on something tonight, I don't know whether I'm in favor of it or not. I mean, I would like more information. So for me to give my support in it, I can't do that at this point.
well, I think all we're doing as a
Just-
board, Gary,
I'm
is
just letting you know that.
we're agreeing to put our weight behind it, as a request to the CPC, for those funds to do the study.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, I guess-
move to support the project.
No.
It's not the project, it's to support
Study.
the study
Yeah,
Initiative,
yeah.
well, that,
project.
or the submittal for the study.
Okay. So we can make
Yeah, I
it
mean, I
short
think
and
if we
brief.
support a study, that doesn't mean that we're
supporting the
behind the project.
Yeah, we're just supporting the study,
Right.
which is where we're at.
I think we all have to
So-
understand that just because it's the Board of Selectmen, we don't hold any more weight before the CPC than anybody else in any other project.
Well, I think, any board,
I don't think that should be any consideration by CPC.
but I think any board, would appreciate, knowing that a certain board, in town,
I
is
don't disagree. I
communicating.
don't
that they have-
disagree with that, but not to use it as a weight to.
No, maybe not wait, but it'd be, I
Always,
think,
you know.
nice if the CPC knew that, the Board of Selectmen was behind the request for the study, of this project, which is
That's
all,
fine.
which is all
So
it is.
moved.
Okay. Good deal. All right, any further discussion? Do we have a second?
Did anybody second?
Oh, I'm sorry. You want a second? Go ahead. Sorry. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey,
I don't forget that. Okay, so we have our support behind that.
Okay,
So,
very good.
Wish you luck. Jeff, I will reach out to David,
Okay.
and I'll see if he knows about that and whether he can attend.
Okay.
And if not, I will try to be there. I can't promise, because I know I have some children obligations tomorrow night, so I'll see if I can get there.
It makes three of us, so we're in the same
so
boat.
I figure you'll be there around 8.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
get there till about 8 o'clock, so I have let Harry know
I
that.
don't think that'll
Maybe
be
if you're there on time.
Can't
you
speak
can-
for the
you can
board,
tell
but
it.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I did actually try to
Is that
move
meeting
it
here?
down a couple of weeks,
meeting
but the way we had everything, kept it as it came in, so.
Fair enough, we're just trying to move it along,
Because
so.
I knew that you were
Great,
working,
thank you.
really working on a tight schedule.
Before you guys leave, one comment from Mr. Wu.
Just FYI, when the new Pembroke was being designed, there was a lot of input from the Park and Rec Committee, because the whole issue of how many fields we had, how many fields we needed, did we need to go into the woods, not go into the woods. There was a whole lot of discussion on that, so I think there's a report there somewhere.
Yep.
So that's just FYI, there's a lot of data out there.
So that would be on the Pembroke School Building Committee has,
Probably.
Somewhere there, yeah,
yeah.
would be my
There's
guess.
a lot of discussion with the GAA at that point too.
Yes.
Back and forth, so. We're involved in some
Thank
of
you for that.
Great.
All right.
All right.
Gentlemen, thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
attending.
taking time,
We really
guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All right. So next, I want to invite Rob Hoover from the planning department, and the light department, Dave Schofield, up as well. Are you coming up as well? I don't know if you, are you joining up, or I'm not sure. Yeah, I know Peter, but I mean, are you going to join Peter, or? Okay, so Peter's on as well. All right, so I appreciate you gentlemen coming here tonight. There's been a lot of discussion about the town roadway LED lights, okay? So before we get going on this discussion, okay, because all of us have had, discussion about this. I want to, make a statement before we get going, that this is solely a discussion, okay, about this. Peter, as you and I had discussed, there is absolutely no action you have to take on your behalf. I mean, I'm not forcing you to do anything, okay, tonight. Rob and I had discussions that he had concerns, okay, and he just wanted to voice those concerns in a discussion, okay. I think I've made it very clear over the past couple of months, at the very least, that I want town communication to improve, okay. I think that in the past, different boards haven't communicated well together, and I think that's certainly a detriment, to the town for any, project, for any issue in town. Open communication can only be a good thing, right? So what I want to accomplish tonight is really just coming together and having a healthy discussion, okay? Hearing each other's, viewpoints, okay? And having that discussion, and hopefully at the end of the meeting, come to, a healthy agreement, to move forward. I do want to also give some history here, that the light department did come before the Board of Selectmen for a grant, in which the Board of Selectmen did approve, okay, I think unanimously, but I could be wrong about that, I'm not sure. Actually, Steve, I think you were against that, right? So I'm gonna take
yeah.
I'm gonna take that statement back.
I voted against the.
Yeah, so, but it was passed, okay? So, in no way, shape, or form, based on our, local government here, are you guys obliged to do anything? We've already approved that, okay? But, okay, again, I would like to have this discussion, with the planning department and have, Mr. Hoover kind of voice his concerns, okay, over, the LED lighting in town, okay? So with that being said, Gary, did I see your?
I just, one question. on going forward, on the history of it.
Yes.
Were you in front of us more than once?
No.
Okay, we got this done on the one night, because
We did.
that's unusual for this board, but okay.
That was in,
That was
in the
April
spring.
18th, according to this.
Yeah.
That was the one I chaired, that's why.
Well, we also, I know the light department also had, if I'm not mistaken, they had kind of a time frame, in which they were operating under
yes,
to
yeah.
to file for
Can
that.
I start by giving a little
So-
bit of background on
Yeah,
where?
Peter, please,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, I know Mr. Hoover was here on the 13th of November, and he also made a big presentation at his planning board meeting. So that side's out there. I want to voice where we're coming from on this, and by way of background. So, streetlights in our industry have evolved over the past 100 years. They were incandescent. They were metal halide. I mean, they were mercury vapor, metal halide, high pressure sodium. The technology's evolved many times over the past 50 to 100 years, always to get better, to reduce the energy usage and to improve the roadway lighting. That's what they're there for, to light the roads. LED lighting's been around for about 15 years now, and most of us as utility people really haven't invested in them because they were cost prohibitive and there were a lot of issues with that type of lighting. But within the past few years, the technology has advanced significantly. I mean, to the point where the energy savings is significant, the quality of the lighting is vastly improved, and the technology puts the light on the road, not in people's front yards, in their backyards, in their front windows. It puts the light on the road. So the technology has advanced such that the investment in LED street lighting is becoming a smart investment. The capital cost of those lights is still somewhat prohibitive. So I by way of background, I've been in the utility industry for 30 years. I worked for Boston Edison for 20. I've been the manager of the Wakefield Gas and Light Department for the past 10. So I have Dave's job in Wakefield. We're a bigger system, but it's the same idea. So I personally have not made the decision to proceed to LED street lighting, just like Dave hasn't, up until this year for a reason, because it was still cost prohibitive. However, the Department of Energy Resources decided last year that they wanted to incent the transfer of all lighting in the state to LED lighting. They wanted the energy savings, the quality improvements, and the cost savings to be passed on to all the cities and towns in the state. So therefore, they developed grants. So the grant that we applied for as municipal light departments was to pay for 50% of the capital cost of the fixtures. So the fixtures that we're using cost about $140, and half of that is going to be refunded by the state when we're done.
Okay.
So that's the background. So that was the grant. So, but in order to apply for that grant, we needed the support in basically investment of the town in a couple of ways. The first is that the way the grant was structured was that we needed to come to you guys for a memorandum of agreement between us and you that structured how the town and the light department were going to work together on this grant. What they wanted was three things. They wanted the light department to donate all the labor associated with the fixture change-out program. So the light department's doing the labor part of this for free. So our cost is our labor plus 50% of the fixtures, but that cost of the labor can't be passed back to the town. So that was stipulation number one. Two, the light department had to pass on 25% of the projected savings back to the town immediately. In year one, before we were even done with the project, we had to, then for the remainder of the project life, we could recoup the rest of the cost by not lowering the rate anymore until we had recouped our capital cost. So in other words, just for round numbers, if you were paying 100, we had to give you 25, we had to reduce it down to 75. The ultimate bill might be 50, but we're going to keep charging 75 till we can recoup the capital cost that we had to invest. Just in the fixtures, not in the labor. We can't recoup the labor. So that's the way the memorandum of understanding was structured. It was structured the same for every city and town. That was on the muni side, the municipal electric department side. So there's 40 of us. Okay. So of those, 35, I believe, out of 40 applied for the grant and participated in the grant. The grant had some key stipulations, which included that the work needs to be done by July. It needs to be done at the end of this fiscal year. So there's still some debate over that, but right now we need to get that work done by the end of June. So that's the way of the background. So what happened was, although LED streetlights are still expensive, the state's investment in 50% of the capital cost makes it a lot more beneficial. So we all applied for the grant and we're doing the work now. So that's where we were. That's why we came to you in April to sign off on that memorandum of agreement that we would work together. The police department actually provides, if cases or details might be needed, the town has to participate and and help out with the details, and that's the same everywhere. We try to work closely with them, and everybody's got some skin in the game to try to make it better. So
Gentlemen, how much of that project has been done?
about 25%.
25%.
Yeah.
25% has been done already.
It's 200 heads in the air.
Okay. And where have those been installed so far?
If you think where the light plant is in that area, Tenney Street, and the small residential areas in that neighborhood. I had my neighborhood done first so I could see it. I wanted to see what it looked like.
Yep.
And just in case I had to field any complaints, which I've had none, except for some adjustments.
Okay.
So we all applied for it. Now I'm in Wakefield, so we have about 1,000 in Georgetown. I have 2,700 in Wakefield, and we're within 100 of finishing. So we got about 2,600 up in the air right now. And I've gotten maybe 15 or 20 complaints since we've started installing them, and all of them have been dealt with adjustments. So in other words, it's angled too high. So there's been some minor adjustments we've made, but we haven't had a single issue that we haven't been able to resolve by not adjusting a street light somewhere one way or the other. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about the adverse health effects of LED streetlights that were raised by the AMA in their report dating back, I believe it was early 16. One of the things that's happened, as I said at the beginning, was that the technology has advanced rapidly. And one of the things that was noted in the AMA study is that beyond 3,000 Kelvin is a kind of a magic number that they recommended to be 3,000 or below. And the streetlights that we're putting in all the residential neighborhoods meet that standard. So we're complying with. So the reason that when we were here in April that we didn't bring up the AMA study was because we didn't think we needed to, because we're buying what they're recommending. Aside from the main intersections here, and I guess there's things you could do to adjust that if we wanted to, but the other thing we want to remember about our main intersections downtown is that they do require a higher level of light because they're busy intersections with lights and commercial business, and so that's why the downtown immediate area was treated differently with higher wattage fixtures. But all our residential neighborhoods, I would say roughly 900 of 990.
Yeah, it's a rough number, but yeah.
Are
3,000 Kelvin.
The 3,000, 32 watt, 3,000 Kelvin.
So
fixtures.
3,000 Kelvin in residential, and in the intersections they are
4,000. Yeah.
4,000. Okay. Now, when you say required, required by who?
What?
You said that intersections are required to have more. Are they required by the town, by the AMA, or is it just required because they just need more?
More of an industry.
Yeah.
Thing.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if that was a AMA thing. Okay. All right. So listen, I'm going to stop you here because you did bring up the AMA. All right. So Rob, why don't you chime in, because I know you have some thoughts about the AMA study and the Kelvin and all that stuff. So why don't you give some of your feedback at this point, and then we'll kind of go back and forth.
Okay, well, first I would like to thank you folks for tonight. I'd most certainly like to thank the Light Department for coming tonight. Very much appreciated. I think what I wanted to talk about was generally two subjects. One is the current lighting, the project that you're talking about right now, the grant. And the second issue is what about additional lighting thereafter. Specifically about those two issues, I want to talk about glare, and I want to talk about impact to circadian rhythms. Before I do that, I do want to establish for the record a couple of things. One, I think everybody is fully on board with the idea of saving money. Everybody is fully on board with sustainability. You know, there's no arguments there at all. I do want to put on for the record, there are a number of complaints from people that I talk with, and they have not talked with the light department. And I think I would say that anytime someone calls and complains about a light fixture being too close to their house, if you need any kind of shield to correct that light, that's a complaint, because that's actually changing the fixture. I know that people on Bailey Lane, there's a new LED light there that is in a residential neighborhood. It's 4,000 K, and some people are really bummed out about that. I know that on Andover Street, I know in that neighborhood there are some LED lights there that people are very unhappy with how the light is coming right through their windows. In both cases, have to put up special shades in order to deal with it. On Elm Street, which is one of the older streets in town, it has a really nice lighting conceptual layout where it has metal halide light fixtures that are really nicely recessed. And when the new work was done, the intersection of Brook Street and Elm Street, it was replaced with a 4,000 K, not a 3,000 K heavy-duty LED fixture. And I know the people in that section there are upset with how it floods through their windows.
Rob, let me stop you right there
Yep.
for 1 second. Then
Sure.
you can. So these are residential neighborhoods that we're talking about. Maybe Elm Street is a little busier, but you know, Bailey Lane, a little bit. Do you concur?
We haven't got into those areas. I don't know what Mr. Hoover's talking about.
So you don't. Don't think they're 4,000 Kelvin?
I inherited some old pilot projects.
Mhm.
These were not done in the 5 years that I've been manager, so they may have been up there already. We have metal halide, which are actually higher Kelvin rating than what we're putting up, that we're replacing, that were part of what we had before. So there'll be an improvement.
Yeah.
So and it's interesting that all these people are getting a hold of Mr. Hoover and they're not calling their light plan.
Well, so if there is no fixture up there that is new, would Elm Street require 4,000 or Bailey Lane require 4,000?
There is a fixture that's new. When the work was just redone to repair Elm Street, the Brook Street intersection, a new pole went up,
Yeah.
and a new LED 4,000 fixture went up.
I'd have to look into it.
I was going to say, so
Yeah,
this is why I interrupted you, because I haven't
it's not
seen
going
it,
to
so-
stay because that area would be only the immediate area coming out of the crossroads in the center of town
Yeah.
would be 4,000.
Okay, and that's
So it's
why I
likely
brought
that
this
could be
up, because-
replaced. That may have been there
Yeah.
and just been transferred over, but I don't know that.
Okay, and like I said, that's why I said, because it contradicted what you had mentioned, Peter, with the Kelvin. So, okay, Rob, please proceed.
So I think the reason people are talking to me is because two reasons. One, they don't know, just as the planning board, just as the selectmen didn't know to ask questions. The people in general in the public just don't know. Two, a lot of the people are kind of afraid to step out and make a complaint. I have people on my street that kind of feel that way. Oh, no, it's okay, I can live with the kind of thing. So I just, there's good reason why, as I have been going through this process, that people have told me this. The Bailey Lane was at a planning board meeting when we were discussing the Bailey Lane project that came out. So anyways, the Western Ave neighborhood down in Pentucket, this is how this one happened. I was out there one night looking at the new 3,000 K fixture. And a woman stopped and she said, "What are you doing? You lost your keys?" And I said, "No, I'm just looking at the fixtures." And I said, "What do you think?" And she goes, "They're awful bright." And I said, "Do you like them?" She said, "No, I don't." She said, "Get rid of them." Those were her words, "Get rid of them." I didn't look for the information. It's just how it happened because I'm putting myself in those places. Little's Hill, correct me if I'm wrong. Little's Hill has complaints.
Yeah, in our annual meeting. So there is one that's by the soccer field. I think we talked about this the last time.
Yeah.
There, it's extremely bright, but I think the idea in our neighborhood was to replace them all, because we obviously wanted to save money. But then when that pole was knocked down and put up, we saw the new one, and we kind of put it on hold.
Yeah, but those are post tops, and we don't carry the post tops are LEDs in the new underground development. So what's happening is, as they get damaged, it's more difficult to get in stock high pressure sodiums now, overhead and post tops. And it'd be more of an attrition thing as we go forward with those. It's probably an anomaly. It looks different than the rest of them
Yeah, I
compared to
don't know
them.
the details of the specifics.
So for and part of that grant doesn't include the decoratives yet. I mean,
That's what I thought.
right? It
Going
doesn't.
back,
Yeah.
We
So
were talking.
any place that has the lantern style lights right now is not included in the grant yet.
Yeah.
They're talking about coming back with another round. But also, with the decoratives, it gives the technology a little more time to catch up to. Roadway lighting is strictly the Cobra heads that we're talking about. So if it is one of those decorative lantern style lights, it's probably not on the schedule yet, and the technology's probably not there yet. So we're replacing with whatever we got available to us.
So, and then since 2016, certainly I've been on record as talking about this issue. And I guess the point I want to make is that I don't think it's fair to say that there have been no complaints from here on. I think it's pretty clear that there have been a number of complaints, and I want that in for the record. So, moving on.
I want in for the record that I have received no complaints. So to me, unless a light was out.
Yep.
The only complaint that I've received is from Mr. Hoover.
So let me ask the chairman something. In this kind of discussion, I hope it wasn't going to go there. So would the selectmen like me to get in writing from these people to sign a document to make it official?
Does it really matter?
Well, it doesn't matter. That's why
I'm not
you should
saying
just,
that you
that's
just,
why
I'm
you should
saying
just
I
say-
haven't
Hold on,
received.
gentlemen.
so-
Hold on.
I agree, Peter.
Slow down. Steve.
Yeah, if I could just ask a question here. So I didn't have any idea about LED light controversy. I'll be honest. I get them in my house and I get them outside, the Christmas lights, and they're okay. But looking at other towns, and again, this is only a question because I was not aware that there was a controversy, but looking at other towns, it looks like a lot of other towns do pilot programs. The Town of Newburyport, Andover, where they have on their page, they say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put these new LED lights in X amount of area, and we'd like your feedback. Here's your email address, all that. The email address of the light department. So I'm just curious why our town didn't do that, and that it's only a question. It's not
because those are investor-owned utility towns, and so their programs might be different. But the municipals were offered the grant to replace everything, so we didn't have the choice. So what we did is we tried to go out for the best available technology. AMA agrees that the best available technology is the 3,000 in the neighborhoods. I mean, I have a couple of pictures that.
So why wouldn't you do a pilot program? And again,
because
I'm just
we wouldn't
curious.
have been able to participate in the grant. It would have sailed by us. So we had to apply for the grant. We had to get the memorandum of understanding.
I get you.
So we wouldn't have been able to play in the grant. The grant was like a 6-month window of apply, and wait to hear back from them if we got it or not.
Okay, that's fair enough. So I'll just throw this out here for you guys to think about. Again, we're not saying you have to do anything, but is there a possibility from now until June to say, okay, let's get a few weeks of feedback from people. Is there any types of tweaks that could be made to what is bothering people right now?
I'm still not
Could
clear.
that happen?
I guess to agree with Dave, I'm not clear on what's bothering people. I mean, again, I put 2,600 of them up in Wakefield, and I got about 5 directional complaints, and I got another backsplash complaints that we adjusted some fixtures. So the things that we're talking about are adjustable. Dealing with those issues. I've been in this business for a long time.
Sure.
I've been through the change from A to B and B to C, and they complained about the yellow light and the pink light because they wanted their
It's
white
changed.
light.
No, that's fine, but
and
just
so-
give people the opportunity. I mean, I know,
again, it's only a few weeks, right? But during the holiday season, hey, here's where we put them. Give us your feedback. If people don't give any feedback, then just continue, continue
But,
on.
and we're fine with
I don't
that,
know
because
if that's-
again,
I'm
the
just
town
throwing that
pays
out
for
there.
the streetlights, we're just the service arm.
Sure.
But if they, I guess, what mechanism do you wanna use from there? Cause if you guys decide you don't wanna do it anymore, we still have a stranded cost that we'll have to recover.
I'm not saying that, yeah.
So-
I'm just trying to get it to a
Steve,
point
can
where.
I sort of piggyback into the same kind of question you're asking? What I wanted to move on to were possible solutions with where we are. And the idea of using 3000K, that is consistent with the AMA's recommendation. And all that I would ask is, can you, for all of your lighting, do 3000K, just across the board from here on in? So, the 3000K is good, what you're doing with residential lighting. But maybe you can do it in all the areas. And then,
Rob, do you mean also intersections as
yeah,
well?
absolutely.
Even
All-
though it is-
all lighting.
Do you
Yes,
gentlemen
yes.
feel like 3,000 is enough at an intersection though? So,
No, I
so
don't.
that's the discrepancy here, right?
I don't,
on
and
the intersection.
I think we'd probably get complaints from
That's
safety.
not, that
Yeah,
it's not,
public-
And I
Public
just think we
safety
would.
over there.
okay, I'm just wondering, I just wanted to throw it out there. Gary, did you have a quick comment?
I just that we've got our chief, who I think is a head of kind of a, one of your many titles? You're kind of the head
3000K
of
is
the
not
public
less,
safety, aren't you?
3000K is not less lighting.
I was addressing Chief Cudmore, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking to
No,
me.
no, I was addressing Chief
You
Cudmore.
were looking right, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, as far as 3,000, 4,000, it's probably above my educational level with streetlights. From my perspective, lighting is a good thing. It brings safety and serenity to people that, there is areas that are lit. We have some towns around us that are not using streetlights. Even myself traveling through as just a motorist, it's a challenge. Our community is very used to having streetlights. When this topic came up a couple of years ago with regard to funding, there was some public outcry about turning them off. I believe the light department had some systems where they were being turned off to try to save some money and things like that. But I think sounds like the cost thing has been addressed. So all I can do from a perspective of someone who lives in Georgetown is, I have lights on every corner of my house on the outside. In the event you hear something, you see something, so you can light, your home. I'm sure we all do that. I take the town in that same manner and degree, because if we do have an incident, we have high pedestrian areas with no sidewalks, and people are out there walking after hours. So, from a public safety perspective, we enjoy streetlights in our business because it helps us. As far as the nuances of medical and cost and what did you call them, looms or whatever they are, I've never really, I tried to study this one the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Every document I looked online is 62 pages, 65 pages, and it just starts going over my head from a scientific perspective. I've worked on the PD for over 30 years. We've always had streetlights, and we're just kind of used to that as far as patrolling and protecting the town.
Yeah. Rob, you started getting into the difference between 3,000 and 4,000.
Well, what I
All right, so
wanted-
why don't you explain that?
What
a
I
little bit?
wanted to say was that there is no difference in the amount of foot candles that hits the ground plane with a 3,000 versus a 4,000. You're getting the same amount of light. It's the wavelength that's different. It is the perceived color that is different, and that is the circadian rhythm health issue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
If I said yes, I think so, but why don't you get into
So
it again?
if I may,
Sure,
one's
go
gonna
ahead,
look
David.
cooler or whiter, and one's gonna look a little more yellow.
Correct.
Okay.
We're used to seeing a white light downtown.
Yeah.
It's the white light, it aids, you're able to see things more clearly with it, and that's what we have now.
Okay.
So when we embarked on this project, we wanted to keep things as close to normal as we could everywhere, and that was by design.
It is not a difference in clarity. It is a difference in color rendition. Color rendition meaning the white light of the 4000K reproduces what you would be seeing in daylight, more like it's daylight. The yellow would change the color rendition, but it has nothing to do with clarity. You would still see everything just the same.
That's
Okay.
debatable.
So the 4,000 is, if I'm correct, is white,
Whiter.
more white and whiter, and then the 3,000 is more of the yellow tint.
And it's a wavelength. That's the wavelength.
All right.
measure.
Okay, as long as I know. So David, you do not concur, with that because it is debatable.
Yeah, I
if
just
that is
think
fact.
we want to go back. I think what we're doing downtown is going to look a little more yellow anyway from what we used to. And I wanted to go back with what everybody was used to because I receive 0 complaints about streetlights. 0. Okay, unless one's out.
Okay.
So didn't Peter did you just agree that you guys will do a few weeks just to get some feedback? Did I not hear that right?
Well, I mean,
Is
again,
that something that you guys will do?
What do you suggest we do?
yeah,
Have
I mean,
a survey of some type?
Just on the website as other towns have done.
Well, those lights have already been installed. I mean,
It was
the,
20, yeah.
the survey has been have they received anything since
Well,
those
and that's-
that lighting
that's-
has gone in?
That's exactly right. They're in, and we're monitoring the feedback we get, and we're not getting any.
And by the way, with that, I will also say, when anybody does anything for anything, let's all face it, right? You have a street, no one is going to be 100% on board with every. But there's this side of a project, there's one side of an issue, there's this one side of an issue. There's never anything in this world, especially today, that everyone's on board 100%, right? And we all have to understand that. Okay,
There's an adjustment period
You're
with
not going to
these, so-
appease 100% of the people in a town, a city, a country, and of the world.
You got to give them the
Okay.
opportunity, though.
But
You
that's the
can't-
thing, they
you can't
have.
do it in a
They have installed 25%, and from what the feedback I'm getting is they have not received any feedback, negative feedback, okay, nor positive. I don't know if you've gotten positive
Oh,
feedback.
no,
but
we've got positive
you've
feedback.
got positive.
Absolutely.
Okay. Rob has gotten some feedback. All right. But it's he said, she said, kind of thing, and we can't kind of base
I
that.
think there's a balance too. You got to realize that there's multiple factors at play. So you're talking about the quality of life, quality of light on the roadway versus uplight, backspill, all that. These are far better than anything we have currently. You got to look at the cost savings, which you don't want to make it solely on cost savings, but the reason people are doing this is because there's cost savings. The state didn't do this because they thought it was a great idea and it sounded cool. They did it because there's cost savings to be had by their cities and towns.
Sure.
So that's why they're doing this, and there's energy savings. Obviously, we're cutting the energy usage in half of our majority.
Yeah, which
of us.
Rob concurs. I mean, I think he understands that. So, Rob, why don't you continue? I know you had some more concern.
So those were some of the solutions to deal with the current grant that you have, and adding shields as standard would take away all of the 80. Would take away all of any possible glare going off road. All of the light does not go on the road. The LEDs go, depending on the distribution, go off the road, i.e. the examples I gave you of people's houses being flooded. So those are possible solutions that you could do for that. What I want to talk about is the future. And what what happens after this project, and I before I go on, I think Steve's suggestion of getting a survey of asking these people, do they like this lighting, would be an excellent idea on the selectmen's part to find out if people like this lighting. I think that would be a great thing to do. And that's up to the selectmen. So with that, what I wanted to do is now talk about the future. The lighting and what the town of Georgetown's gonna do with the rest of their lighting. The IES, which is one of their standards.
Can I question why Rob's going down this for the future and with the, now
Because
you
this
mean
is
the
the
lights
rest
that
of the-
haven't been changed?
This is
No,
the
I'm trying
rest
to
of
get
the
to
light.
where you're going.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to address the lighting for the town of Georgetown. And what I'm trying to do is get the people to have a say in the lighting of the town of Georgetown. That's where I'm going with this.
Well, I mean, we're either
And okay,
finish
I'm I'm trying to get where you're going and get an understanding and why we're going down this road, because right now we're here having a discussion, I'd say, about the LEDs and the change to LEDs. That's what we're focused, it's at least what my focus has been. Now you're going further out to the future, and I mean, you know, you started this back, as you said, back to your letter, back in May of 2016, and you didn't get to this board until I think it was October or November. And
That's
we're
supposed to
well
mean-
into
what's
this
that supposed to
project,
mean?
Rob, okay? And,
Is this a shoot the
and-
messenger, Gary?
it's, no, but just hear me out. I've been hearing you out, so I'm
Well, I
trying to
wasn't finished.
understand, well, you were kind of finished, it sounds like, with the LEDs, and now you wanted to go down a different road. And
You didn't let me
there is a
finish.
statement that I wanna make. Okay, I did go, you know me, I do a little homework. I read this study thoroughly, and it sounds like most of what we're doing is at the last page of this study, following recommendations of this study, is what I saw. I met with Dave today for about 15 minutes, surprised him, he didn't expect me coming. We talked about it, he explained some of the things about him. I went out tonight before I came to the meeting, one of these things is up, I'm pretty sure it's an LED up right around my house on the corner. And I'm gonna tell you, in my opinion, just like that picture that just went around, gives off far less light going up in the air and getting wasted. Where the other great big ones, the light just goes out like this. So I mean, we're going to that. But there's one thing that I felt at the past two meetings. I went home, I told this to my wife, and it came up while I talked with Dave today. And I'm feeling the undercurrents here of doing away with streetlights. That came up at some of our last meetings, and I kind of felt that it came out of you when you said you talked to the woman. She said, just do away with them. So I don't
Yeah,
see
I mean,
that as a.
that's not even
no,
close.
Well, I
That's not
don't
even
see that
close.
as a complaint to the LED when she says just shut them off. I see that
She said-
there are people that would rather not have streetlights. If you wanna go down that road, perhaps we need to go down that
Well,
road.
again, there's gonna be
But I
people
don't
with
think that
opinions.
that's where we go now,
Right.
so.
So Rob,
So,
proceed.
so what I wanted to finish with was talking about the LED lights, and when you finish this project, you still have the rest of the town that you're gonna be lighting, changing lighting as you move forward. And they're directly related, and it's all about focusing on the townspeople having a say in how their town is lit. That is what this whole thing is about. The IES, which is one of their standards, as I have standards in my industry, and they introduced a new chapter into their latest, and I mentioned this to you last time, and this is important because this is about what we're talking about. It's about lighting design. They didn't have lighting design in their chapter before, in the books before, for standards that the industry used. They came up with this in the latest edition, and I just want to read it to you. Designing lighting in the vacuum of analytic checklists, principles, and rules increases the likelihood of a technically adequate solution, but not necessarily the right solution, for giving building and group of users. The introductory chapter to the design section is unlike any before in its previous 9 editions of the IES. The very nature of design is to explore individual and team ideas to solve problems. That's the town having a say in how they want to light this. It's how an architect designs a building, where the architect designs what it's going to look like, and the engineer makes it work behind the scenes with the technical. This chapter came out to address and bridge that gap, which has not happened in their industry.
Bless you.
So with that said, what I would like to suggest is that, and this would be consistent with the economic plan. They're related like this. How you light the downtown is directly related to the economic development plan. Picture downtown of a traditional New England, of a traditional old New England town, where you come down the road, and it's a classic New England town that has lanterns lining the street. You have the stores being lit from inside their windows so they shine out. You have that nice relationship where you can see the storefronts. You get enough light on the streets from the lantern lights, and it's that quaint feeling. Versus what we have today. which is these 4,000K. There are 6 different light fixtures downtown, 6. Some of them are in excess of 3 and 4 foot candles on the ground plane. The IES's own recommendation is 0.5 to 1 as the average. I mean, it's lit like you could play baseball at Fenway Park. Now, if that's what the townspeople want, great. But maybe they don't. Plus, it's directly related to the economics of how this town moves forward. We live in New England. We live in a lot of the time in the dark. We live a lot of the time in the winter. And how you light is very important to the impression and the image of how people come to a town. So, with that as an example, I'm suggesting that a master plan does, what we do is they don't have plans. We have plans in our industry for how we're going to do something. So what if there was a master plan for how the town was going to be lit? Very simple. And the way you do that is you get an existing conditions base plan. In this case, you would identify the different streets and their character, i.e. downtown is one character. Nelson, which is the only scenic road on the registry, is another character. And then you have neighborhoods that are close to downtown. All of them have different feelings. All of them have different appearances. Maybe the same lighting is not the way to do it. So then you identify a type of characteristic for lighting that you want. Once you get this plan in place that the town is in agreement on, then you start lighting the town accordingly. So that's about how to deal with the future. And the whole point of this, I just come back again, is right now the way it works is the town does not have a say at all in how the town is lit, and they should. And there are health issues on the table.
I would disagree with his final statement because first of all, the town pays the streetlight bill. So if you want something different, you tell us and we'll tell you how much it'll cost and we'll put it up. So the town very much has a say in what it is. Second, I mean, we came to the selectmen with the grant thing in April, and so we took it out we brought it to a public meeting. I mean, and we were dealing with what the AMA recommended. Again, as somebody who's been in this industry for a long time, I felt like the issues that I had concerns about, which were capital cost and lighting quality, had been addressed. That's why we in Wakefield participated in the same grant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got here. Now the lighting that we are putting up has about a 10-year life before we even probably need to change most of any of the fixtures. So we're looking at a 10-year window. If you want to go down some different path over that time, go ahead. I will say that the idea of having the lantern style lighting downtown is great. It's going to cost more to do that project than 10 years worth of street lighting bills. To underground all that stuff and put those types of fixtures up, we just did it in Wakefield. It was just the equipment, just the materials. I mean, were over $400,000.
We have some of those now, don't we?
We have the
Some
older.
in place, they're very old.
Yeah, those are older style, direct buried.
When we redid it, though, that
Yeah.
consideration was taken, but unfortunately, to get what you're talking about, you are talking a major capital investment, because it sounds like what you're talking about is we're just gonna take down all the wires anyways. And that discussion was there years ago, and you're talking a major capital.
I don't.
Significant.
I don't think I am, David. I think what I'm trying to do is put on the table that there needs to be a planning exercise in place where there's a sense of where the town is going with lighting. It's about a plan. And I think Peter is absolutely right, and I agree with him. The 3,000K that they did for the neighborhoods that are residential is right on the money, and I think that was a great call, and I think the saving the money was a great call. But there are these other outstanding issues that haven't been resolved.
But if I can
Sure.
continue, but I'll go to what I discussed earlier, and I think you were a big part in getting it off the ground and the strategic plan, and then you were talking about a master lighting plan. Couldn't that all be part? I mean, it's just, again, do we all want to be off on these little satellites, or as I heard someone else talk about it, silos? I mean, we're all here on different avenues. How do we go down this all together? I mean, a lot of what you said, and I heard you out, is good stuff. Of course, we all want to be involved. It's not always that easy to get people involved.
No.
And I mean, and as to what you're saying, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I mean, you started replacing these, I think, in June. Did I hear you were in front of us in April? I mean, like I
Yeah,
said,
it was a
there's
little bit
one
later
around.
than that,
I've
yeah.
heard not one person, believe me, people aren't afraid to come and talk to me. Nobody's come and said to me, what's going on with the lights? And I mean, they have been changed out in my neighborhood. At least I'm pretty sure they are. You can almost tell by looking at them. They're only about yay big, it looks like. They're not like the old ones. So, I mean, to that issue, you know, I'm not hearing what you're hearing. So I just want
Well,
to.
I
Neither
would
am I.
strongly suggest, join me anytime, I'll take you out at night, let's go look at some of these 4,000 Ks and tell me if you like them, and if you do, great. If you do, great.
If these when these lights kind of go in, to Rob's point, are there adjustments that can be made after the fact if something? I think you had mentioned, Peter, that you kind of shift something to kind of this way, that way, or whatever. Can if there are complaints that come in from folks, and I'm talking about more than one person on the street. As much as I want to honor someone's concern over lighting, right? I think it would have to be the majority, right? It has to come from a majority. It can't be from one person on a 20 house street that has one issue with the light, right? But are there adjustments that can be made?
You can angle them differently. You can. There are back shields, but my opinion is, being in this business for a long time, it would be a colossal waste of money to put a back shield on every light because it backsplashes into 10 or 12 homes. We could put it on 10 or 12 lights if it's a problem in front of 10 or 12 homes. It's a way, it would increase the capital cost of the project by almost 20% to add all the back shields to every single light as a standard,
Right.
when it's only probably needed in a handful of cases. And if people call Dave and they, we need to because of a certain issue. But what I think you're going to find most of the people see is that they're actually seeing less light come into the front of their house, not more. Because I just showed you the pictures from, most of these people are not going to see more light coming in their window because it's angled to the road. It's not coming in their window.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Joe?
Yeah, hold on one second. I had one other comment. So, with adjustments, Rob, going back to your statement that you actually agree with the 3,000 in the neighborhood. So, what I think what you're talking about with the shields, are you directing that statement towards the intersections in the major areas where 4,000 are going in? Is that what we're saying?
No, the shields were for residential.
For
people.
residential,
Yeah,
so
it was,
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, it was for residential and.
So why would we need shields if you agree with the 3,000 that's already in there?
The 3,000 solves the circadian rhythm issue, but they're still bright, and there's still people that have those lights coming in their windows.
So you are saying that you would want them on every single one?
It would be a recommendation. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And cost-wise is another consideration, and
Yeah.
I think Peter's point's well taken. It's probably not going to happen.
Okay, I just wanted to make
Well,
sure.
I was just looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a part of town that we have houses that are separated from the roadway quite a bit. The light in front of my house is at the bottom of a hill. It would be a complete waste of money. There's not a house within enough shooting distance of that light to put it on every single light.
That's true. That's
If
correct.
there's on a case by case
That's
basis,
correct.
there's a hand. I mean, we bought 24 of them in Wakefield, and I've put up like 13. So I mean, that's the kind of if on a case by case basis, it happens to be in a certain place in a certain house that's very close to the road, and you need to deal with it that way. That's a perfect example of that application. But I don't think it's something that needs to apply to 990 streetlights.
So maybe that's where the survey would help. A lot of these people don't know you can say anything. They just
Yep.
accept it. And maybe a survey to find out, if you got an issue, then they know to put a shield up.
Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, that was kind of my point on the questioning. Is can we alter?
We certainly can, Mr. Chairman. And the point, we don't need a majority. If I have an issue with one ratepayer and the light, we do everything we possibly can to fix that, whether we tilt the head or anything. Mr. Hoover knows this very well because we made several trips to his house because he was complaining about a high-pressure sodium in front of his house until he was satisfied. Okay, and that's what we do. But to just blanket fix and put an expensive shield on every light when nobody even mentioned it or had an issue with it would drive up costs, which the town would be paying.
Sure.
Agreed.
Steve.
Yeah. So, just a general statement here, and
we seem to always be in these predicaments when we're going for grants. I think we'll all agree is, I mean, town government moves extremely slow except when there's a grant available. We have a day to get it, right? That's what happens in this world. I don't know why, but I think here is a perfect example of that, right? We had a meeting that the grant had to be in by a certain day. We didn't have any information about how much stuff was costing. We didn't know what the product was until after the fact, but we agreed to go ahead with it. I think, Dave, I mean, I think it's clear that there may be, I'm just looking at an email here that you sent to Mike. It looks like you did want some bells and whistles that you were hoping to have, but then you determined that it was too expensive.
Way too much money, yeah.
Right, so that's my point, right, is that we went ahead for this grant, we went towards it without having the information that we should have probably had before we decided to vote for it. If we knew that all these bells and whistles, as you mentioned, I don't know what those are, but I would assume that that's probably
No, it was
something-
just more, you could get more metrics off of the lights. There were different control units you could put on where you could actually receive data and readings off of them and everything, which would have been great for us.
Yeah.
And the ratepayers would have benefited a little bit from that, but
Yeah.
they were enormously expensive. But we were still in the process then where everything hadn't shaken out. The manufacturers were still competing and trying to give pricing. So we really didn't know where we were going to end up going at that point until that shook out.
And again, I mean, I think, you know, I can't believe I am saying this, but we got to slow down. I mean, we have to slow down when we do these things. We can't do them in a vacuum. We can't do them the day that we're supposed to get a grant in or the day before. It doesn't make financial sense to me. I still don't know how much the cost. It looks like it was 150. Are we still going to get the 90 or no, or is it half?
It actually shook out to be a little less than that. I can get you the exact number, and then it would be right. So if it ended up, I think, going down into the 80s somewhere because the light itself got cheaper.
Right.
So it was half of that.
Okay.
So what we found as an industry as a whole, with most of the 40 of us participating together, is that the vendors sharpen their pencils. So the light that I piloted in Wakefield that was costing me $186 ended up costing all of us like $132 or something like that. So the savings by the large volume buy was significant.
So what was the piloting that you said you did?
So I in Wakefield I put a handful up like last year, but I paid a lot of money for them.
Did you go through this same program?
Huh?
Did you go through the
So
same
what happened was,
program? as we
remember
did?
what I was saying was that I wanted to investigate it, but we didn't invest in it because of the same issue. The capital cost was too high, and the technology wasn't advanced enough a year ago. So the lights that I bought for my pilot, just like Dave piloted.
Program, right. So there was a pilot here or no? I'm confused.
There's been many pilots here that predated me. There's several different fixtures up downtown and everything from the previous manager. And there's certainly a few different types of lights around town that'll be cleaned up as we move through and replace the fixtures, but
Yeah.
I inherited them,
No, that's fine.
so I don't know much about them.
And I understand, I mean, talking with Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea that you have, and I'm not saying it's a wrong idea, but I think the idea that you had was more to go under the radar, right? Where people wouldn't notice it, but to get it as close to what
I wanted to provide the same service we were providing. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to make these changes that people would find unappealing and probably have legitimate problems with.
Well, let me read what you wrote then, and then I'll give it off to you, Joe. So, some of the bells and whistles I was hoping we could have with the system were enormously expensive and not worth it, in my view. We were able to get each head for roughly 150, including the photo eye. Looking at rough numbers, the cost would be in the 150,000 range minus the 90,000 grant, leaving about 60,000 for the town over time.
I think we can do a 5-year buyback and still have, what's, STL, what's that, short-term,
Streetlight STL?
oh, street light, okay. Costs go down for the duration of the buyback and then down further when the buyback is complete. The look of this light will be very appealing to some, others will complain. Frankly, because they were going to complain anyway. I'm not sure what that means, but my goal with this selection is to do the job of the old system at least and still fly under the radar of the ratepayers to the point where they don't notice or are pleased with what they do notice. But that's fine. That's what I'm asking
That's,
you. If
we
that's
just
what
wanted
you
to
want.
provide, that's what I mean about downtown. It's a whiter light, it always has been. And it's crisper downtown. And you're not gonna get the exact same look. But if you look at some of the whiter lights around town and then you go into the residential areas that are done, even though it's LED, it's more of a yellowish light, you know, it's not so white.
Yeah, that's. I mean, just reading this. I mean, this kind of concerns me. I read this as we don't really want feedback from the town. That's how I read this.
No,
email,
I
to be
don't
honest.
want to. We don't want to change what they're used to because I never got any complaints.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All right, so that's the thing. And let me just reiterate what I said when I brought this to you. This is a town play. This is not a light plant play.
Right.
For the light plant, for any municipal light plant, street lights are, you know, it's a service we provide.
Sure.
And we don't make any money on them. Okay, we just try to recover costs. This was a huge town play. And you could have chose to do it or not. And you chose to do it for a lot of good reasons. And you should, in my view.
Sure.
And to be fair, okay, when we're talking about, I think there were some things you said that I highly don't agree with. This was on an agenda, okay? We could have had 8,000 people standing outside with feedback, okay, about this project. Okay, we had 0. Okay, when there is an item on an agenda, okay, anybody can show up and voice an opinion. We had 0. Okay, so therefore, to say that this was hopefully going to fly under the radar.
I didn't say that.
Well, you said something along those lines. I mean,
I read an email. That's what David said.
I think
didn't say that.
is you know, we got to remind that this was on an agenda, okay? And everybody and anybody had a right to come and sit in these chairs and voice an opinion about these LED lights, okay? And there was a cost savings. That was the basis of that meeting, okay, was that. We didn't get a lot of this feedback, okay? Maybe we should have, maybe we should. We don't know any better, right? We spoke about that, Rob. Wish we had that, thought process. We didn't, okay? So that kind of falls on us a little bit. But from that standpoint, anybody and everybody had the right to be here to voice an opinion on these LED lights, and no one showed up. So Doug, go ahead. I know you had some statements.
I think there comes a time that I would agree with Gary that planning like this needs to fall under the strategic planning, so that when you get to those areas in the strategic plan, then people have already had their input and you can expand on it a little more. So once that strategic plan gets done, we'll be able to be a little more efficient. Secondly, I think that it's tough to run government by referendum. We'd never get anything done. And thirdly, I think when we have professionals that run the light department for years like that, and the water department, even, planning board, I mean, you do a lot of this stuff in your own business, Rob.
I've been doing it for almost 40
Right.
years.
That we need to rely on those people to tell us what's happening. And they put in the 3,000 Kelvin. I have one outside my bedroom window. It's no more than 40 feet from my bedroom window, and I had to look out the bedroom window because I thought the light was out, because we weren't getting as much light from the old one into the window.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. but I had to look there and see. Okay, but I just think that we need to rely on the people that are in this business to bring these things forward to us. I don't know if we go too fast. Maybe sometimes we do.
But I mean, my opinion. I mean, again, if this was a huge deal, so this was discussed in detail at a planning board meeting, in detail on November 13th here, discussed in April here, and it was advertised that this would be discussed again at this meeting, and there's nobody here. It's not that, I mean, again, I think the work we're doing is, we as the light department don't want anybody to know who we are. We like being the service that when you flip the switch, the lights go on and you don't even have to know about us. We prefer that,
We have a good reputation.
That's the reputation you want. So I think Dave's strategy of trying to make it as seamless as possible to the customer was the right way to go. We wanted to do that.
Sure. I watch a lot of meetings on YouTube after they've already happened because I just can't get to some of them sometimes. And maybe once we get this communication issue squared away and we have more communication between the boards, we may have known what took place at a planning board meeting that maybe I didn't see it on YouTube or watch the whole 5 hours of it.
I agree with Doug. I mean, it's a controversial issue, obviously, which we didn't know about at the time. And that's, I think, when people want input or the ability to give input is when you go towards projects that are kind of controversial. But I agree with you wholeheartedly Dave, with your approach that you don't want people to know what's going on, right?
Well, unless I was in the possession of other data, yeah. I mean,
because you want it to be as seamless as possible. I'm
because I'd never got any complaints.
I'm giving you a compliment.
And I'm explaining it.
Yeah.
I had issues, chronic issues with the street lights and people calling me about them. Then we wouldn't have done that approach. We would have said this is the prime opportunity to make some changes, but we didn't need to make the changes. People seem to be okay. And if you want a pilot program, the exact same light that we're hanging is in Groveland, the entire town. My colleague over there tells me they've got 0 complaints.
And again, I said it
0.
times. We have 2,600 of the exact same light in Wakefield.
When you say the exact same, the 3,000K?
The 32 watt, 3,000K.
So that's great, 3,000K. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. Chief,
Everywhere.
I know you got a statement.
Well, I was just going to add, Dave and I obviously work closely daily on issues like this, and the only calls that we receive concerning streetlights is there's not enough of them. I've sent him various reports. I run them through Mike's office, and that when a subdivision is added onto or these new roads are created off existing roadways, the complaints that the police department received were, how do I get a street light? How do I get lighting, exterior lighting in my neighborhood? We take photographs, we ship it off to the experts, and then they deal with it. So just to reiterate that from our perspective, people wanted more light.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the complaints we got early on from Mrs. Smith, and I don't know, some woman who was older, is that she wished she had the old light back because it covered her front lawn, and the new one doesn't. You know what I mean? So she wanted more light in her front lawn.
Yeah, that's true.
So Gary, we're gonna Gary will be the last statement, and then we have to actually move on. So go ahead.
How many of the 4,000 Ks do you have? I mean, can you work with, let's say, who you normally, just like the chief said, you work with him, I'm sure you work with Peter Durkee. What is needed in the square and perhaps at some of these intersections? I mean, you know, I certainly don't want you to have to throw away everything, because as you said, they're high investments, but perhaps, you know, we can work to, these are all needed.
In the
You know, I got to agree with Rob a little bit about the downtown. I mean, I think it is well lit. Does it need to be that highly lit? I mean, but I think there I would want to refer to the people, the paid people we have on staff. You know, we got the fire chief over here, the police chief, highway surveyor, and you guys. I mean, I think you can come to some sort of a solution.
But maybe we have to see it first, right? I mean, maybe they put them up, and that again that goes to the question of revision, right? Maybe they put them up, and then everyone going through there, you know, thinks they're going through the sun, and, you know, we have to. You
No,
know,
what I'm
make some
saying is,
revisions.
what we heard was, it's well illuminated, and he tried to keep it like it is. Does it need to be at that? That's,
Yeah, but
that's
what
what
I'm saying is
that's-
maybe we don't know until those
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
lights go in, and maybe when they go in, they get that feedback from you, me, Steve, anybody here saying, "All right, guys, it is a little bright,"
And it,
you know, and Rob will probably be the first one on the phone.
As to what Chief Cudmore said, probably the last time this board discussed streetlights was for around the corner at Cedar Lane. Some guy contacted the board,
Yep.
and, you know, the end of my street isn't lit up
And
enough.
to Rob's point, he's absolutely right. That, you know, and I think we're trying to move there, you know, with trying, you know, whether it be a strategic plan or business development, you know, Steve and I are trying to spearhead. But, you know, those are the kinds of things, you're right.
Well, this
You know,
is where I
that's-
would think the board that Rob's on would be on the cutting edge of this. Maybe
Sure.
I'm wrong, but I mean, you know, you've got the newest technology going in when these new developments go in. And I would think that's where we would get some of our pilot programs. Well, this went in, but it didn't work, you know?
Well,
So-
right now, we have no say, and the dialogue is non-existent with planning board asking for recommendations for lighting for their projects.
Well,
So if that can change, that would be wonderful. If we
Well,
could
here's the,
establish
and,
a
and I'll just
dialogue.
explain to you the issue with that, is that if we don't have a standard in those neighborhoods for decorative or a single, then we're gonna have, the first street that goes in is gonna have one, the second. Then, when those lights go out over time, we have to maintain a stock room that's half the size of our garage, because we need to, that's why we standardize on a single thing.
And standardizing, it makes all the sense in the world, I would agree with that. But so to that, you know, we would be looking in some cases for a lantern style that doesn't have perhaps as many LEDs to it, would be 3000 K and would cast a certain amount of light. And you can find that fixture together, and then that can become your standard. Or you can find the 3000 K standard that is for the other ones, and work together like
But
that.
also, you know, just like communications, in our lifetime, we gotta all admit, the lighting has changed tremendously, and we're going through it yearly. I mean, you know, hey, there's something in here, do we all wanna go back, to where was it? You know, from wood fires and low wattage incandescent bulbs. That's about all that it said, had the shorter wave weights. Do we wanna go to wood fires on every corner? I mean, so,
So, gentlemen, listen. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Right? You know, I would. Let me step back. So, what I would suggest at this point, okay, again, the lighting department, you have an approval. Okay, you have to do nothing. I really appreciate you taking the feedback. Okay, from the board, from Rob. Okay, to me. Okay, Rob, your points are valid, but again, per our government, the way things work right now, okay, there's an approval on the table, and the lighting department can move forward with their project.
I get
Okay, but what I will say is, you know, again, I am trying to push for as much communication between boards as possible. I think Rob has a very valid point that you guys seem like you mesh, right? You know, where, you know, with projects you're doing, per our government, you don't need approval, right? But maybe there is some communication with planning to say, hey, you know, Rob, we're looking to do this. Just what are your thoughts, right? I mean, you know, is there something that you can provide us, you know, in terms of opinion, okay, from the planning board, you know, that, you know, may go, you know, to a certain direction or whatever, right? You know, again, I think to get this town to where I think we all would like it to be, all right, we need to provide each other with good communication. As Doug said, that we are experts at certain things we know nothing about. Again, no one, what you just mentioned, Rob, about Kelvin and all that, over my head, you know, and I've learned a lot about that tonight, right?
Unfortunately.
I wish I had known a little bit more, because maybe we would have had some questions back in April, right? But the fact is that didn't happen. So, you know, with that, you know, I just encourage, you know, continued communication, you know, between boards. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking the feedback, you know, from Rob and answering some questions of the board. I'm actually looking forward to seeing all the lighting around town. But what I will say is, for those that are watching, and I don't know, David, it's up to you. I know you come out with a quarterly newsletter.
Yes.
Maybe it's something on the bills, something that if anybody has concerns, over the new lighting, something along those lines, call the office, and give us some feedback, just something along that. I don't think we need to hold up any project or anything like that for this survey. I really don't. But I think it is fair to ask for feedback from the townspeople, all right? And, if you do want to take a single call and represent a whole neighborhood, that's certainly up to you. Personally, I think it should take more than one person in a neighborhood to say, yeah, this is too bright or not too bright or whatever else.
Yeah, it depends on what the call is.
Right. So I'm going to leave that up to you. I mean, as Doug said, we're looking to you guys as the experts, in this, and that you guys do a great job, in town. And, and if you could field those calls and in some way get it out to our townspeople that, hey, if you have some feedback, bright, not bright enough, whatever it is, give us a call, and we'll address it.
Yeah, we can certainly do something like that. In my experience, our ratepayers here have not been shy about calling me about problems that they have.
Yep.
It just has not been my experience.
Yeah, but I mean, you're
so-
25% done. You have a lot of work to do, right? So you're going to be going into a lot of neighborhoods. You're going to be doing intersections. You're going to be doing a lot of that stuff. So, it'd be interesting to see what maybe some of these people say, and maybe their feedback is great. Hey, Dave, great, it's awesome. It
has been so
I
far.
love the light and everything else, right? So, so from that standpoint, again, thank you for joining, Rob. Thank you for joining. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys
Before you
coming.
guys go, David, if you could tell us a little bit about your experiences over the past, month. I really want to recognize, you guys and your efforts as far as what you've been doing.
You're talking about down the
overseas.
hurricane restoration
Yeah,
project
in the
down
Virgin
in the
Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands, yeah. So the area public power entities pooled together resources and went down to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, mostly because we have a mutual aid pact, if you will, because the Water and Power Authority on St. Thomas is a public power entity as well, and they're we're kind of in the same cohort. We're our same parent organizations. So we've been down there before 1995. NEPA, the New England Public Power Association, which is the parent organization of the municipalities in this area, the municipal light plants, went down for Hurricane Marilyn in 95, and this was kind of a encore to that 22 years later. And I went down, we sent a piece of equipment down, we sent iterations of linemen down there, Groveland did, Middleton did, Wakefield did, sent people down there as well. And we just basically line crews working 95 hours a week.
Wow.
Trying to get 7 days a week, trying to get the infrastructure back. It's about 90% destroyed.
Wow.
And it was tough down there, and it's still tough. And what happens in these events is the first 50% is kind of low-hanging fruit. The last 50% is very tough. And that's where they are now. They're in that area where getting 10 people on might take crews, days to do. And but it's very rewarding. It has a lot of intangible benefits for the line crews and the organizations working together down there. You could have a Wakefield crew mixed up with Georgetown linemen, and then working together for the first time, different techniques, different tools. It does a lot, and it's very rewarding.
How far do you think that they're back? I mean, now you mentioned they were 90% gone.
The numbers are tough, and we were getting a lot of mixed numbers down there. I think they're probably north of 60%, something like that.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's
Did you
good
meet
to
the
see
president
progress.
down there when you went down there?
No, I didn't. I
I'm
didn't.
kidding. That's what Trump
didn't
he
meet
felt
anybody.
had its own president.
Just to give you a little background, I mean, as New England, we had over, New England as a whole sent over 80 guys down there under the leadership of guys like Dave and our supervisor from Wakefield, and they did an amazing job. And they've been there for the greater part of 2.5 months.
Yeah.
In iterations. and it's
rotating in and out, yeah.
yeah, and it's been hard work. The guys come back and it's hard work, it's rewarding work, and they actually, as Dave said, they learn a ton. We were able to get a couple of our younger guys over there to learn and work, and so it was a great experience. But you get to see just how much devastation there was, and as Dave said, the small step after you get the big stuff back up, you could spend a whole day getting 10 customers, and that's the hard part. But you got to get it done, and you just see how appreciative the people are.
I'm sure.
You know,
I'm sure.
Very tough terrain. The climate was difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very hot. Just moving around. The roads are narrow. I mean, it would be nothing for a bucket truck to take up a whole road because the road's width was the width of the bucket truck. And, you know, different techniques had to be used, and it was good. It was really good. It was good for everybody.
Great. Well, listen, I applaud you and the department. You know, that must have been great. It's great to be represented here in the town. We're honored that you go. Now, I want everyone to know out there too, and you know, maybe some have noticed, but the light department has been helping down at Pembroke get the lighting on the fields. You know, that weren't there either. You know, David and his crew have been very nice in helping out the town, getting that lighting up as well. So, once again, we thank you for all your efforts.
And just so you know, there was a lot of debate about why we weren't coming to meetings and stuff, because most of us have been involved in what Dave's been doing, so therefore, that's why we couldn't get here till today. Dave just got back on Friday.
We understand,
so,
yeah, we heard you guys were down there, so.
Yeah, he just got back on Friday. Scotty Edwards, who's one of our commissioners, just got back on Friday or Saturday, so
That's right.
our people have been rolling through, so I mean, we really didn't have a lot of time to get here until now, so.
Yeah, sure.
Tough hurricane season.
Yeah.
Great job, David. Great job here.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen, for
Take
attending.
care.
We appreciate it. All right. All right, so we got that. Chief, you want to come up?
It's exciting with streetlights, but maybe exciting nonetheless. Just a couple of items. I don't know if it's in your packet or not, but I brought copies just in case. I had come to you back in August concerning the salary and wage classification for the PD, the non-union employees. And I've added 3 lines to the bottom of the new classification. They were omitted. There's no financial cost. It's a classification of an officer that's being hired. And if you look at the bottom category of someone who has a full-time appointment, until they start the academy, they work the reserve rate that they're assigned. Then there's the student officer who's attending the academy, and there's a hiring step 1 under the CBA, which is 90%. And then the full-time officer post-graduation, obviously the CBA applies. So we've been utilizing that for years, so there's no cost. It's just that I wanted to include that in the classification so that there's no confusion about someone who's appointed and on delay with regard to attendance of the academy and things like that. That's one item. So if I could respectfully request that that just be revoted with the new effective date of 12/18 of 17.
This is one that we already went.
Yes, sir.
through, right, okay.
What happened was when we started plugging in for the for the budget, we realized that there were non-union classifications that weren't on the sheet. And it's just a system that's been in place for many years. And the rate that they use is already determined above. And the other rates are already in a CBA because they're attending an academy, which is, it's called the hiring step, step 1, which is 90% of a salaried police officer.
In the detail, is that
No.
in here or not?
No, that has nothing to do with it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. That's all within the collective
Down at the
bargaining
very
agreement.
bottom. Right, right, right.
This is all for non-union personnel.
Gotcha, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Uh,
So,
Questions?
so you want us to
Yes,
to amend our first vote to add these
yes, and
classifications?
yes, and then the new effective date would be tonight, 12/18 of 2017. Then I can file that for the future, and then as minimum wage changes, or if there are non-union employee increases, we'll just change the wage scale according to those votes thereafter.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess, Mr. Chair, I would move
Now, is there anything else that we need to discuss on this sheet, Don?
That's it, sir.
I move that the Board of Selectmen adopt the Georgetown Police Department salary and wage classification with the addition of the last three lines: full-time appointment, pending academy admission, reserve rate, student officer, attending academy, 90% base patrolman, and full-time officer post-graduation patrolman, CBA, date to be effective December 18, 2017, which would be an amendment to our first, which I don't know when we took that.
August of this year.
In August of.
It was August 8th.
Right, so we're amending August of 2017.
Do you want to just approve as printed?
Well, I just made the motion.
All right. Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Uh,
Yes, sir.
This has all been run across finance, and I mean, this is, I think
no
I heard you
change.
say this is, this is the way that you've been doing your
Right, yeah.
budgeting. So as
Those
personnel,
non-union- yeah,
as
those non-union
personnel and
positions.
finance and all of that, you're also recommending this.
We just needed to add it to the
Okay.
list.
We didn't have these last three lines.
Yeah, no, that I'm understanding, yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pass.
Thank you.
Yep.
The second item was, I had a meeting with the ABCC, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Control Commission, and we were reviewing the regulations that the selectmen had put forth back in 2011 concerning the licensing of our establishments here in Georgetown. And part of that regulation, I have a copy of it here that was pulled out. It's a 2011 document that you referenced when, yeah, that's the Mass General Law. And that the ABC strongly suggested that the Board of Selectmen, who are the licensing agents for the community, actually appoint members of the police department to act as their agents in the event they're not there. So it's very common in other communities where you have members of your police department that can act on your behalf with regard to the enforcement of your regulations that you approved back in November of 2011. And I would submit that the members of the police department who would be appointed would be the command staff and the two detectives. Obviously, that would result in investigation, and then anything that would occur during those agent actions would have to come before your board in a public hearing anyway, so you would certainly be notified. But when they asked me, do we have anybody who's actually appointed as the agent on the police department who are law enforcement officers, I answered in the negative. So the ABCC suggested that. So I bring that to you tonight. I brought a copy of the statute that they reference, and it's also referenced here in your regulation. And I submitted the list to Janet, would be myself, the lieutenant, the three sergeants, and the detective, who would obviously be summoned to that location, one of those 5 people in the event there was a problem.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know if you need a copy of the regulation, if you need to look at it. It looks like you might have it, but.
Yep. Questions from the board?
Oh, I was wondering why this was in there.
I'll go if that's okay, Mr. Chair. So we are in no way as making them, they are agents for us we are still, I guess, the licensing authority.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're just giving them the authority to work under us, through the
Correct.
department.
Through Mass General Law, in the event there's an enforcement action that needs to be taken
Now,
with regard to the ABCC regulation.
have you been having problems?
Overall, no.
I mean-
I have one establishment, whereas I met with the ABCC specifically concerning some activity down there, and during our review of the regulation that was passed by the board in 2011, this was absent, so I wanted to take corrective action on that. And then moving forward, I sent letters to all of our licensing locations, and I'm currently meeting with them to get their knowledge and understanding of this regulation that comes in addition to just the license to serve alcohol. It's pretty comprehensive. Some questions that we had pursuant to enforcement are already there. This board acted 6 years ago and put them in place when you adopted these regulations, which are derived from the ABCC and Mass General Law.
Sure. Okay. Yes, sir.
Don, do we have to update the regulations to include these new appointments?
No, it's defined. It says that the licensing authority can appoint agents on their behalf
Okay,
for enforcement action.
thank you.
If I can just continue a little bit, I mean, it's this must just be part of what's in there, and I
That's
found
correct.
it interesting that, you know, this is about going in and, you know, I don't know, maybe.
Inspection.
Maybe they're watering down
Possibly,
or
that's correct.
buying bootleg liquor or
Mhm.
something, so I mean, have you had any complaints?
No, sir.
Okay, so you just,
What happened was this regulation here, which is your board's regulatory document for issuing licenses to serve alcohol, it's a 20-page document, and inclusive in that
now I think I'm
is,
remembering that.
yeah,
I've been having trouble remembering
is many references to having appointed agents in the event you have to act.
that. Okay.
And we don't have that. I mean, we haven't had any problems. We did encounter a problem a couple of years ago, whereas I utilized the chairman of the Board of Selectmen's authority with regard to that license, and we took appropriate action. In the event immediate action needs to be taken, we would be able to, you know, utilize our statutory powers as police officers to do something. More of a check and balance, so that we don't have to bring the chair out of bed at 2:30 in the morning if there's a problem and have him go in there with us.
Let me tell you, if you know how I sleep, it won't happen.
So, obviously, it doesn't create your police department to become rogue in any fashion. It still has to come before the authority of this board. It creates that appointment in the event it's needed. Very similar to the 7 appointments you give me with regard to all of the activities that go on under the guise of being the chief of police. This is one of them. And I would just include my command staff so that I, too, would be able to send somebody down there in the event I'm not there.
Sure. Okay. Further discussion? Questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I don't know how I would word it. Do we need to, we just say the command staff and,
Well, I have a list of the officers' names I can give you if you'd like them.
sure.
I got it right at you. Oh, yeah. I have it
Want
printed.
me to give it a try? Okay, you got it.
Never mind.
And the motion can just reference Chapter 138, Section 63.
Right, so
Pursuant to Mass General Law.
I move that the Georgetown Board of Selectmen appoint under Chapter 138, Section, under Part 1, Title 20, Chapter 138, Section 63 of the Massachusetts General Laws, that the Georgetown Board of Selectmen appoint Chief Cudmore, Lieutenant Hatch, Detective Sergeant Rodden, Sergeant DeFio, Sergeant Jones,
And Detective Carapellucci.
Carapellucci to act as the Board of Selectmen's agents with regard to public safety, good order with alcoholic beverages in licensed facilities in Georgetown. How's that?
Term to expire.
Hmm?
Term to expire,
Oh, is there a term to expire, or are you just
June 30, 2018.
to expire June 30th, 2018?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. We have any further discussion from the board? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay.
And the final item, I'd also, and I have a copy for you, with regard to the old business of Rock Pond bylaw committee. I had issued this letter to all of the interested applicants at your request at my last meeting with you. I also included this packet here, which had the Town of Georgetown Committee Handbook, as well as the open meeting law, as well as the ethics requirements to serve on a committee. So it encompassed probably 50 pages. So I had an officer deliver them to all of their homes to save on the postage, because it's a pretty big package. So they're out riding around anyways, and they were able to accomplish that. So everybody got the packet, and as you can see in the letter, at your request, was that after reviewing these requirements, if they were still interested in serving on this committee, that they were to contact Janet Pantano's office of the Board of Selectmen to see if they would be appointed to said committee. So that has been accomplished.
Okay. So, Chief, we got 10 names here. Do we know the 7 members and the 3 alternates? Is that it?
We said there was a husband and wife, right? Eric Harper would be an alternate.
I think there was a husband.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. Eric Harper is an alternate. Okay, my bad. I didn't see that one.
And
I
I,
gave you an updated list tonight. I gave everyone a list of.
This one here. the one that
There's
says,
7 on there that, if I'm reading it right, Janet, there's 7 that have requested.
oh, she said it was updated.
It just says, I think it just said subject on the top cutoff.
That's
Yeah, it's the
updated.
same one. Yeah.
And there's 10 names on it, right?
There were 10 names.
7 have responded.
Have you heard from Mr. Muskovitz?
No. No, number,
All right, so number 4 could be
no
a...
response. And Eric Harper, I think the board had said there was only gonna be one from a household.
Yes.
So he said he would be an alternate if allowed.
So Mr. Muskovitz could be an alternate.
An alternate
too,
at this
right?
point, yep. So number 4 and number 8 are going to be alternates. So we need one more as an alternate. And how are we going to do that? Is the
You
question.
would do 1, 2, 3.
Well, that would give you 9. That would give you
7.
7 regular members and 2 alternates. You want 10?
Well,
Oh, we have 10 people. That means we need 3 alternates, right? Am I
Well,
wrong?
maybe-
Mr. Muskovich hasn't responded at
Yeah,
all.
so we'll make number 4 and number 8 alternates, which means we need one more alternate to get down to 7.
If I can say, somehow I have, in the last month, run into 3 of these people.
Yeah.
And they're telling me, oh, I'm on a committee. They think that they've been appointed already, and I try to tell them, no, you've got the packet, we have not moved in that direction yet. So it may be that some of them just don't realize that they were to, I probably well worded, but maybe they didn't quite read everything that they have to respond.
Chief,
I
do you have
have
an
talked
opinion
to
about
them.
this since you've
Oh,
talked
you
to
have
these folks
talked
more than we have?
No, I think that the folks that showed the interest, either contacting me by letter or by telephone, a couple of them dropped them off in person. I spoke to them, and everybody that I had spoken to were eager to serve. And I tried to follow up the letter so that from a logistics standpoint, they would have the information that is necessary to serve on a committee. And I try to show the interested parties that there's some work to it. It's not just voicing your opinion about a vote or some regulation, that you have to put some time in. There needs to be some discussion and possibly some research into changes, if any, need to happen down there.
Now, are all these people on here that live around Rock Pond, or are there people from other areas of the town?
No, I think for the most part, they
Oh,
live
Rock
in the
Pond.
area.
Are these in any order? These
I
people?
think they're in the order that the chief received them.
Yes, the list I had submitted to Janet, I had brought back the list the first time, and I had kept track of when I received them, so they're in the order of when I received them according to date.
Okay, so I would recommend that, 4, 8, and 10 are alternates.
Right.
Does that work for you, Chief?
I think it
I mean,
sounds great.
I just want to make sure that you're comfortable
Are you
with
sure
it.
it's 10 or 9? Because I'm reading 10 as has requested.
Oh, they all say has requested or
Yeah.
would be an alternate.
No, 9 says no response.
Huh?
No, I think you're looking at an old
Oh,
list then.
I didn't, I gave you a new list tonight. It says
I got it.
subject on the top.
I got it, okay, yeah. I was looking at my packet.
Yeah.
4, 8, and 10 alternates.
All right, so why don't we do that? Do we need to vote on that, or?
Have we already appointed them?
Oh, okay. All right, so we
didn't appoint the individuals, right?
So we need to appoint all of these people
We
then.
need to appoint, well, you'd rather read their names, and then the appointment is to when? June 30th of 18?
Well, if we could always extend it if they haven't come back with us for something for town meeting. Because, yeah, I think we're hoping for something for town meeting.
Yeah. Mike, is that, June 30th?
Yeah, June 30th of
Yeah.
2018.
2018.
And then,
Yep.
because I think this was something you wanted to get done over the,
Yeah, oh, yeah, let's get it done.
For the
No
voting
doubt.
season.
yeah.
Do we have to go through individually, or can we put them all in a group?
No,
Oh,
just
Just put them all in a group.
nominate the whole list.
Okay. All right, someone want to do that?
So, you just want to do as presented, or do you want to name the people?
I'd like to name the 7 people as,
Okay, all right.
and then the 3 alternates.
Mr. Chair, I move that Georgetown Board of Selectmen appoint the following candidates to the Rock Pond Committee with a term to expire June 30, 2018. Janice McGrain, Bruce Freed, Dr. Clive Patience, Beth Harper, Ezekiel
Giswaldi.
Giswaldi, yeah. Christopher Crosby, and Matt Smith, with as regular members, and Paul Moskovitz, Eric Harper, and Keiko Skinner as alternates.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion.
For the term to expire.
No, you said that.
Yeah,
in-
you said it,
yeah.
perfect.
So we got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on the board? Okay, all those, you all set? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
To all of these.
thank you,
Yes, so,
Chief.
thank you to everybody.
I'll send them a letter to jumpstart their committee and attend their first meeting so that they can appoint a chair and possibly a secretary so that they understand the posting of meetings for a location in town hall, the calendar, just to get them moving in the right direction. And obviously, I'll be assisting them as in an ex officio fashion so that they can
Change
take
it.
their appropriate votes, and
Just gonna white it out.
I can be there as a resource if they need anything.
Initial it,
Okay, and,
Should remind them to go to the town clerk too
to get
get
sworn.
sworn
yeah,
in.
to sworn in,
That's a good idea.
do any training, that they have to do as well, so. All right,
That's all I have.
Chief,
sir.
thank you for your efforts on that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And, oh yeah, thank you very much. Chief, I knew this already, but for everybody out there, no,
Oh,
you?
me.
For everybody out there, we want to congratulate you again on being, selected as president of the, what's the title?
Essex County Chiefs.
Yeah, Essex County Chiefs, that's right. It's a very distinguished position, and we wish you the very best. We're very proud of you, to
Thank
be
you for that.
appointed, okay?
It'll be an honor to serve. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for reminding me. Chief? You all set?
Yeah, just, I was here earlier, 2 licenses.
Yeah, that's
We're about to
We haven't done that
do,
yet.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
they have an issue
Oh, there you go.
with one of the, with one of the, they have an issue with one of the licenses.
Okay. So,
Oh, all
so
right.
what are we doing with that? All right. So this is, all right, I'll sign this in a second. So where is that on the, okay, so the license approvals?
Sir.
Right there? Okay.
Is that updated too, Janet?
Yes. those
Oh,
are taken.
All right, John, you want to come up and
Sure.
talk about this? All right, so we have some licenses that we have to approve. I guess from that standpoint, we have an issue on one, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
We have an issue on one of these approvals?
Yes, as part of my review with the ABCC, as I had notified you earlier of, what I did this year in taking a look at the regulation and making sure that we're in compliance from the town side, I sent letters to all of our licensees and met with all of our establishment owners, and we reviewed the hours of operations and some of the other situations that may pertain to specific operational guidelines. And all were on board. We haven't had any problems, but with one establishment who has not responded to my request that I've sent, hand-delivered a letter, to the manager on the license. And I would like to meet with them. The chief was able to meet with them one evening. He has some issues that need to take, he needs to have them take some action. So I wanted to know how the board would like to handle that, knowing that we're probably 10 days from the end of the calendar year, realizing that I don't think you're meeting till after January 1st.
Right. Yep. January 8th is, I think, the
Right.
next meeting.
Can I ask?
Absolutely, good.
So in terms of the severity of the issues, I mean, are you guys concerned that there may be, if we do let it lapse, well, obviously, we don't want to let it lapse, but
No, and that's certainly not my intent, nor the
No.
chief's intent. What I would probably submit at this time, that some of the issues are on a law enforcement side, and obviously the inspectional issues are for the fire chief. That if there is a way I can reach out to these folks, to have them sit down and meet with me, they're not open during the day. They're only open at night.
Okay.
And I need to have them come to the police station and review some of these reports and go over this regulation specifically so that their operational requirements are met. And I know that their license was submitted late this year, and this regulation that you adopted in 2011 allows for us to try to take some corrective action so that we don't have to have a public hearing and go that route. So I would like to at least try to work with these people so that, you know, we can fix these things for them.
Can we do the
can we do a
motion
contingent upon
contingent?
satisfaction with the,
And
that'd
that's,
have to take place before the 31st, correct?
and that would be my request, that if I am able to satisfy that, is there an ability to take a vote such as that? That would be what I would be looking for. I know the chief's in process with a couple of the things that they need to fix on the fire side.
Yeah.
And they're not, they have varying hours at that location, so, and like I say, they do have a right to a public hearing, so I would try to like to work with that establishment before we get to that level.
But Chief, did I hear you right that you've actually tried and they have not been responsive?
I've sent them a letter, and I had one hand-delivered to the facility.
Okay.
Janet sent them an email this morning telling them that they should be here tonight if they at all possible.
See, so I don't know the specifics of their operation, but clearly they operate via email.
So there is an issue from the fire side and
I'll let the chief elaborate on, his is pretty simple as
We
far
did
as.
a fire code, annual fire code inspection, November 27th. We came up with some deficiencies that didn't meet the fire code.
Yeah.
There was issue with one of the doors in the kitchen. Fire extinguisher needed to be hung. Emergency lights and exit sign lights were out. Not all of them, but some of them, and those are batteries, so that's a pretty quick fix. The other thing that they need to do is have their hood over the grill inspected and cleaned, and it wasn't inspected and cleaned. So I did go back there last Friday night with one of my members, and we spoke with the owner, told him, I says, you need to get these things straightened out before the end of the month, knowing that you folks were gonna be here tonight. And he said he was working on getting the emergency lights and the hood scheduled to be cleaned. He did have 30 days to accomplish everything, so the 30th day would be the 27th of the month. And also, a couple of things that were on the report he had corrected, so which was good. So he's down to 2, basically, the emergency lights, actually 3, the emergency lights and the exit signs and the hood. So I explained to him, we're looking to work with you, but we need to get this done. So we don't want to see him shut down, and I concur with the chief, contingent on him meeting. That would be my recommendation, meeting that the deficiencies are cleaned up.
My meeting is
Yeah.
relative to operational hours to ensure that the regulation is being followed. It's very, very specific, and it's very defined, and quite frankly, it's very easy to follow. The ABC applauded the regulation manual that you folks had implemented back in 2011. It's comprehensive, and although the license seems to be somewhat benign with regard to the hours of operation on the license itself, it refers back to that regulation, which is extremely detailed. And when I explained that to our other establishments, they were very amenable, and they have been There have been absolutely no problems with regard to their operation, specifically to ours. But I need to have a meeting with these people.
Okay. All right.
For some of the board members, we had a issue several years ago where the police department did go in at midnight on New Year's Eve and shut the place down because they were not cooperative.
And it's not a nice thing to have to do.
No.
So we will shut them down.
We've had to do it
Can we
before.
do it contingent, I guess is the question, or not?
According,
Yes.
yes, and according to the ABC, they relinquish full authority and control to the licensing authority. Every community has their own specific guidelines and regulations pursuant to establishments with regard to the setting of hours. With the outside of Mass General Law, the authority that this board has to regulate that activity is defined and absolute. So I concur with Mike that and I will make the effort, but they will have to come to the police station. They're going to have to sit down and review these reports with me so that they understand this regulation, that this board allows for them to operate based on that license, and that's it. And it will not be adversarial. It will just be that we don't have many problems in our community with regard to our restaurants and taverns operating. So we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure that they understand the regulation and to agree to what they signed up to.
Well, first, Chief Mitchell, do you feel like they're making progress on?
Well, he has taken the report on the fire side and he's working at it, but we still need to get those items straightened out.
But is he telling you he's working on it, or have you seen progress?
Well, we've seen progress,
Yeah, seen progress,
but
okay.
the items that I alluded to, the emergency lights, exit signs that are not lit, that those are batteries. Those are easy to replace. And he says he's gonna be scheduling the hood cleaning for the grill in the back.
See, it's about
Which is-
timing.
right.
Unfortunately, the end of the year is the holiday season, and right in the middle of the holiday season, these licenses are up for renewal. Don't know if it's intentional or not in the law, but, Christmas and New Year's are very close together. It's an important, busy season for restaurants, so.
So, let me ask you, if we do these contingent, their license still, or their licenses would still expire on the 18th if nothing was completed, right?
On the 18th?
Excuse me, the
No,
31st of
31st.
2000.
Right.
But if I was able to send a letter to this board, to the attention of the chairman and the town administrator, that they're.
Their licenses are set to expire
Yes.
the end of this month.
That's correct.
Yeah, we're just talking about the first one.
Well, they have other licenses.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, there's other
Yeah,
licenses.
that's all of them, yeah.
But, I mean, well,
We gotta name them because we gotta say who it is,
We'll name them, but.
because it's gonna have to be contingent, so it's
So-
gonna have to be different than the others, correct? Just the one.
Right.
I take it we're talking about Tin Lizzies.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just a question on that. Did we issue the first license to Meta and Douglas Enterprise? Was
Is
that
it-
who they were in the beginning, or?
No, it's a DBA.
they're doing.
Yeah,
DBA.
yeah, it's doing business as Tin Lizzy, but is that the name of the enterprise that we issued the license for?
Yeah.
It is, okay.
And just as a matter of discussion, every other single license holder contacted me within a day of receiving the letter, and immediately came down. I mean, it's an important license for them. We have a great working relationship with all of our establishments, and that's important for the community. So the fact that there was an email sent even as early as today
Yeah.
from the town administrator's office with no response, this meeting needs to occur.
Agreed. And has there been a notification either by PD or in this letter that specifically states if this isn't done, you will be shut down?
Yes.
The email I sent to them today.
Okay. I want to make sure that's out there because you know how that is. People will say, what? You're shutting me down? Why? What are you talking about?
I think what's
And-
important
And they,
oh, go ahead, Jen, please.
I was gonna say, and they should, their license expires December.
I know, but people, and I'm not saying it's this business owner or any other business owner, but I've seen it, I'm sure everyone else has seen it, that it's always somebody else's fault when the bad stuff happens and they're saying, well, I didn't know this was gonna happen.
That's why
I didn't know
I'm
this, I
taking the
didn't know-"
regulation specifically with areas of concern dependent on the operation of the establishment to really hone in on those particular chapters with regard to hours of operation, who's supposed to be on the property, what their responsibilities are in holding such a license, and things like that. That is what the crux of the meetings were about. And like I say, with all our other license holder, there was absolutely no problem whatsoever. Most of our facilities close before that time period is on their license, so they don't have that open beyond licensing hour issue that's cropping up.
Janet, have you sent that email copy to the chief so you can see?
No, I just
No?
sent it to the manager today.
You might want to keep it for your file
Well,
because
what I'll do is
I-
Janet can forward it to me because I'll try to reach out to them. And like I say, going above and beyond so that it's not an adversarial
Yeah.
situation to go down there and say, come to 47 Central Street and let's get this done, if you
Okay.
want to remain in operation.
Yep. All right.
I mean, they all know when the deadlines, I send out a letter when we do the renewals.
Yep.
With a whole packet of information that they have to fill out,
Yep.
forms.
Yeah.
and-
It's a
and-
three-phase
and they-
process. This has been going on for,
They did say they didn't get it because I did email them because I hadn't received it. You know, before the deadline, they were supposed to get it in November, and I did. And then I emailed it to them. They got it back to us, and they came down and gave us a check. So they've done it in time, but later than everybody else.
Yeah.
But they do. That letter had all the deadlines that this was our last meeting, and that they have to have inspection, and you know, they know they've been at.
Chief Cudmer, have you or any of your command staff made a physical appearance at the establishment?
yes, Detective Sergeant Rodden did.
And
He
talked
delivered
to
it, he delivered it in hand to the male party who's listed in the DBA.
Okay,
He delivered my letter in hand
okay.
Steve.
on December 12th.
Just a question in terms of process on our end, so, and not to allude that there is any issues there, but you did bring up that the vent had to be cleaned.
Yeah, the hood over
That's a
over the
fire
grill,
hazard, yeah.
yeah.
In
And
terms of any other departments, like, how frequent are inspections for other departments? Do those happen? I'm sorry?
Annual.
Okay.
Yeah, they went out
So
to
like
all the
if the-
restaurants. I mean,
Board of Health would go out every year, and we haven't had any issues from the Board of Health?
Make go out a couple times a year, I think. They do.
They can go out.
can, yeah.
more than- They have to do at least one.
Have we had any issues from Board of
No,
Health with them? No.
That I'm
It's just-
aware of.
All right. So this is more of
Yeah, the fire.
fire
code.
hazard, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the fire code.
Okay.
Our business owners are very astute in the requirements that they have to follow. We've had very few issues.
Okay.
So we should just handle them separately,
Yes. We.
all of this
Yep.
in one motion.
Yep. All right. Any more discussion?
It's just oh, sorry. It's just concerning a bit that they would, that it's not
Just
taken
as-
that seriously. That's my only
I agree.
concern, but I don't know what the board feels.
Just as Steve said on process, I understand his question, but I may perhaps, building on what you said, perhaps they need to receive a copy also of our vote. So, I mean, I guess you don't think by putting a contingent on these that it will have any authority on our vote if they say, well, that wasn't proper. I mean, I think we're doing it the right way, or we ultimately meet again next week and we give them a drop date dead of that day.
Well, New Year's Eve, if they don't comply, then New Year's Eve, lock the door.
We have the licenses, I mean, even if you
Yes,
vote at the,
And they
We
go-
have
Until they have that
voted many
license.
times on things continue. We did it twice tonight earlier on something
Yeah.
else, and we've never been challenged on it.
they have to have that license is supposed to be displayed at the business, so that,
Yeah.
you know, we cannot release it, which is what, you know, we have done that before also, so that we can hold the
Yeah, so,
license.
okay. I guess I'm okay. I just wanted to be sure on the process that this is an okay way to go and that we shouldn't perhaps just
Hopefully
say we're
we
gonna meet next
don't
week,
have
give them a
this
drop
issue
date dead.
Often.
And there weren't no, like, any extenuating circumstances, it was just didn't get responses. So not
any, okay.
Everyone else submitted it.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can get this worded right. Mr. Chair, I move that the Georgetown Board of Selectmen approve the following licenses, all contingent.
Renew? Instead of,
To renew, right?
yeah, it's a renewal.
I'm sorry. To renew the licenses for all alcohol restaurant, Meta and Douglas Enterprises, Inc., DBA Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill, Common Victular, Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill, Automatic Amusement, Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill, Sunday Entertainment, Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill, Weekly Entertainment, Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill. Contingent on meeting with and correcting all Georgetown Police Department, Georgetown Fire Department operational requirements. And the renewal would expire December 31st, 2018. But this would be contingent on them complying by December 31st, 2017. The license would be expired, yeah.
That work? All right, motion and a second. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And of the other lists that Janice sent to me, there were absolutely no problems with anybody else who holds a license in the community.
Oh, yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
do
we're
those.
still gonna do
other ones.
those. Yep.
No, I hope they can realize the effort that you have both been here for them.
Well, like I said, I don't want it to be adversarial. I'll continue to do that, and I hope I can report back to the board through the chair and Mr. Farrell that we were able to accomplish our goal.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
All right, fight through these.
Mr. Chair, I move that Georgetown Board of Selectmen renew the common victualler licenses for Honeydew Donuts, Best Bagels, Inc., Nikki's Roast Beef and Pizza, Richdale Convenience.
Second.
What's the term?
December 31st.
Okay.
To expire.
You have to say to expire.
Oh, sorry, to expire December 31st, 2018.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move the Georgetown Board of Selectmen renew the license term to expire December 31st, 2018 for second-hand shop, Instant Replays, Bent LLC.
Okay, motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. Chair, I move the Georgetown Board of Selectmen renew the Class 2 used car license for IGV Corp. Doing business as Georgetown Auto Sales, Route 133 Fuel, Inc. Term to expire December 2018. December 31st, 2018.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Further discussion?
Is
I have
that?
a question.
that
Yes.
one?
So, he came in, right, to see us, my twin brother there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Didn't we, did we not do the used
That
We
was
did
for
it
this
for
year.
2017.
Oh, for 2017, okay.
2018.
You
Gotcha.
guys don't use
Okay, I
the
don't know.
parade or.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine.
That's been the policy.
Okay, so
So
we've got all them.
my question was, this is all one business, this isn't two different businesses?
No, it's two
correct?
businesses.
Oh, it is, so the Route 133 fuel is the second business?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the new, the BP station. BP, I think it is.
That's the
That's from
BP.
Dunkin'
The
Donuts.
133, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. All set. All right, let's get to minutes of November 13th, 2017. Anybody have any discussions?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the minutes of 11/13/17 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion on the minutes of November 13th? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the minutes as printed of 11/27/17.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'm trying to come around here with some of these while you guys. All right. So we have a notice of resignation of Joe Crane from the Board of Health. We want to thank Joe for his service. I understand he's moving out of town. Is that correct?
He's already moved
Yep.
out of town.
So, Joe, we certainly appreciate all the time and effort you put into the town, and we wish you the best. We also have a notice of resignation of Richard Mullen from Concom, who I understand is also moving out of town. Correct?
That may have changed, and I think he may be reapplying, but I haven't heard officially anything. from
Interesting.
him, So.
Okay, but we do have the notice, right? Okay.
He may come back, but
Well,
he officially resigned already, so.
yep. So, Richard, thank you for your service to the town. We certainly appreciate it. We certainly hope that you come back on if you do stay in town. But again, thank you for your service to the town. All right. So next, as Doug's actually signing, Doug, why don't you hold that for a second?
Yep.
Doug would like to talk about the event this Saturday with Wreaths Across America.
As a town resident, a veteran, and a member of the Board of Directors of the Eastern Essex Veteran Services District, I would like to send a hearty congratulations and shout out to Cindy Treffry Rollins, who has spearheaded, this is her third year spearheading the Wreaths Across America Remembrance Saturday. And this year, we had enough wreaths to put on every veteran's grave in 3 cemeteries. It's Union Cemetery, Harmony Cemetery, and the old Byfield Parish Church Cemetery, which was, we had 60, I think around 50 to 60 people in attendance. The police sent their color guard. The fire department, from the boom on the engine, hung a big American flag over Central Street. There were buglers, I believe, from the Boston Crusaders, and probably 24 veterans that attended the ceremonies and placed wreaths. And also a big shout out to the Kiwanis, who provide coffee and hot chocolate and donuts for the event. But really, it's a gargantuan effort that Cindy goes through, and I'd just like to thank her for spearheading that, for all the veterans and for our community for the remembrance. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. That's looked like a great event. We also had a number of kids there that helped with the wreaths, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw pictures of
I
that.
forgot the scouts. There were so many people there. The scouts were there. You know, they, I believe it was the brownies, some type of, a Girl Scout, daisies, brownies, maybe a combination of them,
Yep.
that led us in the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag.
Yep. Great.
You know?
Great.
Right.
Well, we thank everyone for joining. Certainly honoring those folks with those wreaths was certainly a great event. So, so moving forward, we have the town administrator's report. Mike wants to give us an update on a couple of issues that we've been kind of tracking.
Frankly, there's not much to report. The Mello situation, I'm pretty sure I reported this at our last meeting. I did meet with Jason Mello and his attorney prior to their most recent ZBA meeting, and we discussed the option of going out to National Ave. In fact, he had considered that location many years ago when it was owned by Boston Sand and Gravel. So he's familiar with the site, and I don't know if our discussion had any impact on it, but the January ZBA hearing, they requested it to be postponed until February. So they're gonna be 2 months out before they go back to the ZBA. And I don't know that he was aware that the town owned it, and but he was familiar with the location. Speaking of National Ave location, John Cashel and I completed a grant application for the mass development for them to do a site assessment on that property as well. We submitted it a week ago, just last Thursday, and we're anticipating positive results from that. And
Does that include the RFI too, Mike? for that, or no?
well, they wanted to, they would do the, it didn't include the RFI.
Okay.
Because they wanted to do the site assessment before that. We would need the information from the assessment
Gotcha.
to include it in the RFI.
Okay.
So, and then as far as health insurance is concerned, we'll be going out to bid in January and mid-January, and get back bids in early February. And depending upon, you know, who and what we get back for bids, that will still, if we're going to, we're doing one bid for exact, you know, comparisons, apple to apple, to our current plan. That was what was recommended by our consultant. But we will also have the opportunity to look at other cost savings plans. The reason for that is if we do change the plan, that starts a whole nother process that we have to go through with the unions. That's the section 30, chapter 30, section 21 through 23 involves negotiations with all 10 unions in the town.
So we're basically going out to bid for just pricing on the same kind of plans that we have now? Are we,
Yes.
Isn't the whole purpose of doing this, Mike, to try to improve
Well,
the program?
but we can't improve the program without negotiating with the unions. We can't change it without.
What are we negotiating? Wouldn't the negotiation come after we get any proposals from these companies? Yo, i.e. right now, we're set, we're the employees are what, 70-30, 60-40?
Yeah, but that's non-negotiable. We don't negotiate that.
Why not?
By law, it's non-negotiable. They would have, under chapter 30, section 21 through 23, you cannot change the allocation amount. The only way to change the allocation amount is through each individual collective bargaining agreement. You'd have to put it in all 10 bargaining. That's why the health, that's why the light department is different, because they negotiated a separate percentage amount. That's the only way that can be changed.
So what are we actually looking to accomplish here then? I thought it was my, I thought it was my thought that we were gonna try to put together a better plan, for the health insurance of these folks, whether it be bringing them from a 60/40 to 70/30. I mean, what value are we adding by going with these consultants?
They're taking everything through, they're conducting the process. They're contacting all the insurance companies and doing a request for proposals.
So really, the only value that we can add is a less expensive program rather than going to a 70/30 plan or 80/20 plan or whatever it is. I mean, is that the only value that we can try to add
there's
here?
no cost savings there. It's still gonna, it's gonna save, it's gonna have a cost savings for the town because, well, no, if we go to an 80/20 or 70/30, our costs are gonna go way up.
Possibly, as long as
Definitely.
One of the things we discussed last year, if I can
Sure.
jump in, was perhaps offering a third policy.
Right.
I do remember that, but other than that, yeah, I think about all that this group can do is bid it out and perhaps find more people for bidders that are gonna, even though we got the same policy, they might be able to bid it lower.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess
basically
that's the only.
But
Or
we did-
not go up as much as.
Yeah, but we did discuss, could we add in a third policy as an option that they could take? Would that need to be negotiated?
No.
Yeah, so that was
long
one
as
of,
we-
that was
as
one of the
long as we
benefits that I
leave-
thought that we were
Yeah,
looking, the other two there.
That avoids the negotiation
Yeah,
process. We can
yeah,
just,
if we
as long
left
as
the
we
other,
don't change the
negotiated.
benchmark
Yeah.
plan.
Yes,
We have to keep the benchmark plan the same,
yeah, right.
but but then we can add other plans underneath the benchmark plan.
Yes, that might be attractive to a fairly healthy person, and it would cut everybody's cost. Now, do you know, are any of them looking in that direction, or are they just looking to bid on the two plans that we offer now?
I have to have additional conversations with them, but that's the main process right now. Getting more carriers to bid on our current plan.
Does this consultant have like a statement of work that we've agreed with them exactly what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have that? Can we see what?
I can
What did I-
get it to you tomorrow. I don't
no,
have it with
that's
me,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure we have somewhat of a chance to save the town some money on this. I mean, if we
Right.
don't, we're just kind of blowing money,
Well, that's the risk with it.
Well, I wasn't aware that, like, the percentage-wise, I mean, because that's a way to structure a plan that you could save money on, right? You might
Right, but
you might get some extra benefits, but, the cost could go down, but you switch around the allocation.
But that has nothing to do with the insurance company. They don't care
Yeah.
who contributes what. It makes no difference. They get the 100%, whatever it is. That just divides up the pie, our pie.
Well, that'll impact the premiums and.
No, it
and
won't.
what- It won't impact the premiums at all.
No. It'll
How
just,
much they pay out,
Just a matter
right?
of how much
No.
we pay.
How much
as
they
opposed
pay
to
out
they
too,
pay.
I would think that would be part of their.
they're gonna quote us a premium cost.
Mhm.
They're gonna say it's $1,000 a month. Whether we pay 30 and the employee pays 70, they're still getting their 1,000.
Mhm.
There's no impact on the insurance company. The only way we save money is if we go to 50/50.
Which I think we should do.
And we'll save 10%. But you have to bargain that in each and every
Right.
collective bargaining agreement.
Now, we can't even, can we change carriers?
Yes.
As long as they offer the exact same policy
As long
with
as
the
it's-
exact same
it's-
doctors and everything else?
No, it doesn't have to
Okay.
be the same doctors, it just has
Okay.
to be the same benchmark plan.
Okay.
Similar to the same or better
So we're right,
than the GIC benchmark plan.
but like, but there may not even be a lot they're right now with Blue Cross Blue Shield is who you're with, correct?
Yes.
And it's pretty much nationwide? Or that's where the two plans differ?
Correct. The HMO is a local.
Okay, so that might be the
and
one where you can make some
PPO
headway.
is expanded.
Yeah, because there's not a lot that I don't think there's a lot other than Blue Cross Blue Shield that are in that one that goes anywhere. But there are a lot that will perhaps do local, okay. But I really think if you could work on that third policy with them, that I see that as where your savings is, really is. I mean, I did that myself last year.
What, the +1 you're talking about?
We cut the plan from this level down to that level and almost cut it in half, but we went to a different carrier. And this year, it's all over the place. I mean, because now I've gone with Social Security during this past year, but, I mean, one thing went up 20%, and the other thing only went up 4%. And then my wife's came in, and hers went up, I think, 20%. So it's not looking good. I'm imagining you're probably gonna see the same figures.
Well, and to Gary's point, I mean, I really kind of went into this hoping, that we could actually add value for the employees. If we were to save money, I was hoping to maybe even take that money and then try to improve the plan a little bit. Maybe to Gary's point, adding that kind of plan. But at the end of the day, I was really hoping that, there would be some benefit, to the employees as opposed to, saving, the town, X amount of money. If we saved $1,000, to your point, Mike, with the $1,000, I would hope, my thought was to put the $1,000 back into a better plan and maybe come out even.
We can do that.
Because I just feel that in this day and age, I think we lack from that standpoint. I have friends who are teachers. I have friends who have wives as teachers. 60-40, lacks the industry. It does. I mean, there are some people who have 70-30. There are school systems that are, quite frankly, bigger and have more money than us, but they're 80-10. Right, 60-40 is that's kind of down here, in terms of that, and we already don't pay our employees kind of probably the top of the line, right? So and that's fine, but I really feel like to have an employee stay with the town and take less money than what other towns can offer, and take a haircut on the insurance policies at 60-40 when there are other towns offering 70-30 and some are even 80-10, 80-20, excuse me, is a lot, and I don't want to lose good people. I really don't. I mean, the town functions on good people, so, I'd really like to see us add value for the employees of this town rather than have it be about, a cost savings.
Well,
Which kind of goes hand in hand. Again, if we had cost savings, maybe we can help in other ways.
the only ways that towns are reducing premiums are by increasing the deductibles and the copays. That lowers the premiums. So as long as the the increase in the deductibles it doesn't exceed the savings in the, say you save $10 a month in premium, but you add, $100 deductible. They'll save $20 because that they're saving $10 a month, and the premium only went up 100, so they save that extra 2 months worth of premium. That's how the savings balance out. It does, but it doesn't always. I think the best you can hope for is that the increase won't be higher than in the past.
Yeah, the best you can hope for with improved is to stay where you were last year, right?
Yeah, because unless you go with a stripped down policy with a high deductible, the premium's not going to drop.
And then next year, you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
All right.
It's crazy.
It's
it's a roller coaster, certainly.
It's a losing proposition.
It's a problem.
Well, I've gotten some feedback, just and I don't know if you guys have, but I've talked to some employees of the town, and they actually found it to be a win last year that their policies, health insurance only went up 4%.
Absolutely.
It was because they had endured what 9, 8, 9, 10% a
Takes
year.
away any increase you were getting.
So,
Well, you know what?
and that's the thing.
Yes.
That if you look at it that way, 4%, and then they're only getting the 2% or whatever they're getting for
It's
salary.
a fact of life. Every year you're going to pay more for medical. That's all it is.
And by the way, that's municipal or private sector. I mean,
Yes.
I'm in the private sector, and let me tell you something that hasn't gone down, at all. So.
Hey, before the private sector stripped my health care, retirement health care, I was paying 64%.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it's I just I have a problem with our employees taking a hit on both sides. And maybe it's something that this board can look at, and as Mike does his salary study, maybe we actually look at that, and we have more money in the budget. I don't know, but maybe we look at really we can't do anything about the insurance, but again, I really don't like and don't want to see good qualified people leaving town. That are in town because they're getting higher salaries, other places.
I know, and it's the same quagmire, because you start raising taxes, now we tax people out of the community, so it's everybody gets affected by all this.
But we do have increased income. Maybe as time goes on, this National Ave thing produces more income, so we can actually maybe look at some of that money.
Well, maybe down the road we'll work out.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we have more money to increase salaries, for those folks as well. So anyway, thank you, Mike. Anything else, Mike?
No.
Mike, do you actually want to comment on the house that you want to tear down? Do you want to get into that or no?
Well,
Are you doing it, Mike?
no, but actually, Peter Durkee talked to a vendor, and we got the price down to $10,000. So
It was upwards of 25, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
now I just have to find $5,000, and I think I can do that. So
how quickly?
It'll because the highway department will be participating. That's part of the savings.
Mhm.
They won't be doing the knocking down. They'll be doing transporting.
Yeah.
I can do it. The only thing that will slow us down is the vendor that's going to do the demo is also doing our snow removal. So if we have a light winter with snow, that the sooner he can do it.
Okay.
And then, we'll end up just having a level graded lot.
Better than what's there now.
It is.
I'd rather see the dirt.
Actually, the highway department took down a lot of trees today, too.
I saw them in
Oh, is
there.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole back of the lot has no trees on it now.
Okay.
They'll move forward.
Something looked different when I was driving by. That's it.
Should we save one of those for town Christmas tree? Because we lost that, remember a few years back?
Well, there. You know what? That's a good point, Gary. You know, they're. You know, you probably saw it. I know you're on social media. You know, and you know, I'd like that. You know, there was some people calling
It's
out.
not too bad looking.
Yeah, there's some people calling out to get that back. You know, is to get a town tree and decorate it, have a night where we put the lights on.
I
And
encourage them to form a committee, do some
I agree.
fundraising.
I agree. You know, no doubt. So, yeah.
Go to CPC, we probably can fund it.
Over by Napa, I think there was.
Oh, there used to be one. I think
it died.
Died,
Yeah, it didn't last.
The one that was on at the Civil War Memorial, which was planted many years ago, but it just grew so big by federal regulation that tree was blocking the view of the monument. So because the tree was never really cut back.
Yeah.
Depends on which side of the tree you were on.
Well, from the square.
Who puts all the flowers out during the summer?
Country gardens, the country gardeners.
Okay, because I was gonna say maybe those are the same folks. Because I know they look for funding. Same kind of thing. It's a group. They put the flowers out. I know some even people said put some wreaths out.
They're out of business.
Yeah,
Oh, they are?
disbanded,
Really?
Oh.
No, that's too
'Cause
bad.
I know Noonan's goes around. And
Yeah, and Waters and
Waters and
yeah.
all that. But
That's
they've
too bad.
even put up the basket. Does Noonan's put up the baskets?
I think they get them through Noonan's, and Noonan's agreed to water, but they asked for the money, through the electric bills and everything
Jim
else.
Lacy used to do a lot of that work.
What's that?
Jim Lacy was doing.
That's right, he was.
He was doing.
Yes. So, anyway, guys, I know it's getting late. So we're kind of going off. So I have one other thing before we move out. So, you guys have heard me say a couple of times tonight. We've talked about it. But one of my visions when I joined the board and when I became chair is to really increase communication between boards. And we've actually spoken about how we get involved with other boards and committees and. My thought was, to actually move forward with trying to appoint, liaisons to other boards, right? And I know that each of us are involved with other boards, right? So I'm not saying we don't do our share already, but I think as we communicate with other boards, it'd be nice if maybe once in a month in one of our 2 meetings, maybe we have updates from the liaisons to each board, just so each of us know maybe what's going on, with other boards, and if there's anything happening that we should have a discussion about, maybe we do that. So, for example, Steve and I, are on business development, and maybe once a month we can actually give a little, kind of couple-minute thing about what we're trying to do. Kind of talking about some of the things we're working on, and the same goes for any other group. I know that I've already asked Dave Surface to be the liaison. I think it's really important for him to overlook Parks and Rec right now, for them to get East Main Street on on the map per se, so that we can start utilizing those fields. And I think they need someone like Dave to kind of keep pushing them. As we've all seen, they've kind of been lax with certain things. So, so I like, but Gary, I know you're involved with, what are you involved with now? I know there's like 4 different, boards, right? And plus you go to different meetings, like FinCom, right? Consistently, so,
I would think I could find a time if you
Yeah.
asked me to be liaison to some other boards.
Well-
I could try to, couldn't make a monthly, but at least try to get get to a meeting now and then, or even if they want you to, but if it's to be the mouthpiece to try to reach out and contact them.
Yeah.
And then, ask them to either come in or tell me what you'd like me to say. I mean, I think we could do that. In the past, one of the best communicators we had, I mean, we've had some good ones here, and that was Nick. And he, at one time, was, what was the last name?
Cracknell.
Dick Cracknell. He was putting out a thing on what was going on with mostly the land use people, which was conservation, planning board, and probably the bylaws. And he himself just gave us a report now and then, did it on his own, and we were updated on what was going on, what was coming up on their agendas. So we also, we perhaps got paid staff that we can perhaps try to bring in to work with us on these type of things also,
Well, that's a good point, Gary, and I think we could use your help, Mike, with, I know the communication committee / cable advisory, we had asked the department heads in town to provide us just like maybe 3 bullets of what's happening in their particular world, and possibly, we can put that on the town page. Like, we don't have to give opinions or anything, but just, hey, there's these 3 subdivisions that are potentially gonna go in, but we didn't get a great, I should say, we really didn't get a response, so if we could try that again, that would be great. I don't know if the board would support Mike in asking other department heads to formally submit, it doesn't have to be anything huge, it just maybe 2-3 bullet points of what's happening for a particular month, and we could let everyone know. Would you be open to emailing again? Because I know you sent an email out to everybody.
Yeah, I'll,
Just didn't get a.
well, I'll stay on them. I didn't know what the response level was, so.
So let me do it this way. So Gary, what are you involved with right now?
Traffic Study Committee, CPC, and this board,
Okay. And again, you go to
I
FinCom.
tried, FinCom, it's the time of year, yes, I try to usually attend that regularly, and I had hoped to also continue with economic development, even though, just to continue to try to participate there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important.
And Steve, you're on economic development and
The communications in here,
communications.
I wouldn't be able to, I agree with you in terms of being able to get staff to help us out.
What about you?
I'm on the Georgetown Cares Coalition Committee for the substance abuse. On the Veterans Board of Directors.
Okay, and then here. Okay, so the question is, and I'm on economic development and this board, although I'm, in pretty consistent contact with the schools. So with all of that being said, is there a department that we don't have a liaison for right now that we would like to see someone on?
We had Harry here, Planning Board, Conservation, Board of Appeals.
No, listen, there's a lot of different boards that we don't have. I mean, but again, based on time restrictions that we have, are there boards that we would like to see? You know what I'm saying? Is there, like, if you said planning board, we should definitely have someone on there for XYZ, then yeah, sure, let's put someone on. We can't have a liaison on, we just don't have the manpower, right, for, I mean, if David was here, he'd say, Parks and Rec is all he can do, because I know he's extremely busy right now. But is there a department outside of what we're already doing that you feel like we absolutely need someone as a liaison on? Or a liaison for?
I think, like I said, if we could perhaps get something with, I think the land use is probably one of the biggest ones, and who that takes up. I mean, that's where you're talking. You're talking impact to public safety, you know, just so many different things, economic development, I mean, and then we've also got, building inspector knows everything that's going on. Anything new coming into town, I would say he's probably the first one to know, wouldn't he be, Mike? Because they gotta go there to get permitted. I mean, we very rarely see him unless we request it, okay? I don't know if any of these people give Mike reports. I know you have monthly department head meetings. Perhaps if we got something back out of that, you know, what got discussed there? It might be interesting for us to know. I mean, how do we know that what's coming into town that's new, other than when we're licensing them? I mean, we may not be doing it all. So
What if we included those board minutes in your packet?
Oh, we can get it up to 400 or 500 pages.
Yeah, especially with the planning board.
Well, you do some now, like Council on Aging goes in the thing that you put downstairs.
Yeah.
Chief Mitchell, I don't know about you guys, he knows I don't get email, he gives me one every month, I get
He
one.
does a monthly, yeah.
Yeah, right now on that.
Don's here every week.
I don't, yeah, but I don't know if he gives you a report that we don't see,
No, we
you know,
just
and I'm not
communicate
trying to-
on almost a daily basis.
You know, this came
Know
up,
what's going on
I was
over there.
someplace last week where I ran into Carol Jacobs, and I asked her, but she told me she gives a report twice a month to her board. You know, should we be saying that? You know, do we all need to copy, like Doug said, to make the packet, but could we have a notebook downstairs? And you're on communications, and Mike may not like this, but I wouldn't mind knowing what's going on between this board through Mike and legal, and to see the emails that kind of go back and forth, so that we're informed of what's happening if we need be.
So can I make a suggestion? Can we task the communications committee to kind of come up with a plan and follow up with Mike on the department heads and just see where we can get in terms of
Yeah, I think that's a good first step.
getting the information, right? That's kind of the first to know what's going on. And then to your point, you know, if there's stuff that's gonna impact our decisions, right? Yeah, you want somebody who knows a little bit more about it, right?
Yep.
So-
Well, what I'd also like, guys, is as I said, is that as like maybe once a month, and maybe I put it in my agenda, is that we give everybody on the board, okay, again, a couple of minutes just to fill everybody else in on the boards that they are working with, right?
No,
You know,
that's an excellent
you know,
start.
I think that, you know, it just keeps people abreast of what's going on in different areas that they just, you know, I couldn't tell you what's going on with, you know, CPC and, you know, and a lot
Like
of
I
that
said,
stuff.
this year was a busy year for requests, where,
Yeah.
you know, compared to last year. I mean, we probably had double.
Yeah.
And some of them were high items.
Well, in economic development, we're working on some really, you know, important stuff right now with, you know, the land, you know, that we have now, and we're throwing a lot against the wall. You know, we're working with Merrimack Valley, you know, on certain things, and you know, Mike's doing his thing with John Cashel, you know, with the state. So there's a lot going on there that, you know, I think Mike has done a good job, you know, filling everybody in on those steps. But you know, there's other stuff that you know, we can keep up to. You know, and as I said, you know, with me, I've already actually devoted some time to the schools moving forward. You know, after the new year, I'm going to be sitting down with them a little bit more as we start talking about budgets, you know, into the new year. And because obviously there's going to be some, you know, some issues, you know, like we saw last year, and, you know, want to try to get ahead of those, and maybe I can report back to the board, you know, with, you know, some of those discussions that I'm having, you know, with the schools in terms of anticipation of certain items that, you know, they'll come before us with, you know, and, you know, whenever they submit. I don't even know what month that is. So anyway, you know, just something, some food for thought, you know, in terms of trying to, you know, keep up with everything.
If I could say, just a conversation that we're having right now, I find very healthy. You know, you bringing this up and just sitting here discussing it. You know, nothing else is on the table. I mean, I'll be truthful with you. I was coming to this meeting today upset that we canceled the meeting. Because by our policy, we're supposed to have 2 meetings a month. I don't know the reason, you know, I just got told it was canceled, and I was gonna say, well, Joe, when are you gonna reschedule that meeting? Because by our policy, we're supposed to have 2 meetings a month. But it's a busy time of year, I understand. But I just wanna say, I think this, especially ending this way, I think this has been one of the best run meetings that you've had. You had some difficult stuff in front of you tonight. I think observations were very well, you handled it very well, especially the fact that no one here. We've discussed this twice, and there's no one here. I mean, Rob was here, we were giving his time. You had a very good point. We're always on the, this is the day you gotta do it, and you don't have everything in front of you. Another excellent point, and those are the things that we gotta work to improve those things also. But I just wanna say, I think this was one of the best meetings that I've seen us have in a long time. Especially when I came in a little, and I'm going home very happy.
Good way to end the year, right?
Okay.
A lot of positive note.
All right,
And
so,
we got people that are willing to work with people. I mean, someone
No, that's
dragging their
good.
feet, and our paid people, you know, that we have working for us took the time to come here tonight for those people.
That's the big
And we
thing.
did our best to work with them. So, I
Yep.
mean, that's what we need to be doing.
yep, I agree. So let's say it's 25 past. Is there anything else that we missed? Anything else that anybody wants to bring up?
I just had a question from Mike. Do we have an update on Greenbridge? I don't see them going to the planning board anytime soon.
No, last I heard, they were in the process of engaging an engineer.
Okay,
Uh,
but that's the first stop, right, in the process?
Yes.
Is planning, okay. Okay, yeah, I was just curious, because I hadn't seen anything.
Okay, anybody else?
That's it.
All right. So next meeting is Monday, January 8th of the new year. So we'll see you next year. First, I'd like to wish everybody here a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday season. Happy, safe, and prosperous New Year. And for everybody out there, the same. I'm sure I wish everybody, I speak for everybody on this board, that we wish everybody in Georgetown, again, a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday season, and happy, safe, and prosperous 2018.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Good night, everyone.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Oh, always.